Welcome, my sleepy sojourner, to a tranquil voyage through the long shadows of the past. Tonight, as your eyelids grow heavy and the day begins to dissolve into the quiet hush of dreams, allow yourself to sink deeper into stillness. Let the noise of the world slip away. Like fog retreating before dawn, you've found your way to a quieter place, where stories drift like candle smoke, and the past rustles softly through cobbled streets and wind-battered hills. Before we begin, if you feel so inclined, I invite you to share where in the world you're listening from tonight. What time has found you seeking rest among these tales? Are you nestled in Norway as the northern lights ripple above? Perhaps you're resting in Melbourne after a long day under the southern sun. Wherever you are, whatever hour you find yourself in, know that you are welcome here. And if this gentle journey through time brings you peace or a sense of calm, I kindly ask you to subscribe so you won't miss our next quiet excursion through history's forgotten corners. Now, settle in, let your breath slow, let your shoulders ease, and imagine, if you will, a road winding through the wooded countryside of medieval Europe. The sky is heavy, as if weighed down with secrets. The trees sway gently in the evening breeze, and ahead, barely visible through the mist, lies a small village, huddled against the cold earth, like a child seeking comfort. This is not the romantic Middle Ages of shining nights and tapestried halls. No ballads will be sung about what happens here. No banners fly. The worst places to live in medieval times were not the castles or battlefields, but these forgotten fringes, these quiet places too poor for plague doctors, too remote for nobles, too tired for hope. Our first footsteps take us to such a place, a village unnamed by any mapmaker, carved into the damp lowlands, where fog clings to every branch and the ground squelches beneath your boots. There are only a dozen homes here, if you can call them that. Wattle and daub walls, sagging thatched roofs, doors that never fully close. Smoke curls from the crooked chimneys like tired sighs. Step quietly into the life of a man named Daran. He is 37, though his back is bent and his teeth are few. His days begin in the darkness before dawn, lighting a sputtering rushlight and stirring the ashes in the hearth. His wife, Annette, sleeps beside him still, one hand draped protectively across their youngest child, who coughs through the night. Baran is not lazy, nor is he weak. He is a man like so many others in his time, worked down to the bone, and yet still rising each day to do what must be done. The soil here is thin, reluctant. Crops come grudgingly. This year the barley was poor, the cabbages small, the beans blackened with rot. Still he plants again. Still he hopes the frost will come late. The family eats once, maybe twice a day. Thick bread, gray and dense, with perhaps a bit of onion or old cheese. Meat is a memory. Milk, when the cow isn't dry. Most days Baran leaves the village before the sun rises, walking for miles to work on land he does not own. There, he digs and sows and hauls and bends, while the steward watches from a horse. At dusk, he walks home again, his feet raw and mind dulled with fatigue. There is no privacy, no peace. The home is a single room, dirt floor, fleas in the rushes, smoke thick from the fire. Children whimper in the dark, their bellies empty. Neighbors mutter prayers, voices low. The winter is always near. You can feel it in the bones, in the breath, in the way people look at the sky. Baran has seen men disappear into that cold, too sick, too slow, too tired to carry wood or find kindling. No one speaks of them. There is no time to grieve when the fire is going out. Disease visits often. Coughs become fevers. Cuts become death. The old woman in the next hut, called a healer, though her knowledge is mostly guesswork, comes and goes with a sack of herbs and old charms. Sometimes they help, sometimes they don't. When children die, they are buried quickly, without coffins, wrapped in old cloth beneath a stone or tree. No names carved, no words spoken, just silence. The village shares what little it has, though fear makes people stingy. Rumors swirl as easily as smoke. The miller waters the flour. The blacksmith's son is cursed. The widow by the river keeps bones beneath her bed. It is easier to blame than to explain, easier to fear than to understand. These are the stories that shape the days, the invisible threads that bind a fragile community together and sometimes tear it apart. One night, the steward's men come, demanding grain. The tax has increased. Baran has none to give, nor do his neighbors. The men take what they can anyway. Barrels half full, salted scraps, even a goat from the tanner's yard. When they leave, they warn of punishment next time. But the real punishment is already here. The silence afterward, the empty shelves, the hunger that grows in children's eyes. In a world where survival is a triumph, suffering is ordinary, and this village, this damp and sagging place, is only one of many. Now let us wander further, into the damp lowlands of the north, where water stands in fields year-round, and the wind never seems to stop its endless sighing. There we find a coastal village, not far from the salt marshes. The people here are fishers by need, not by choice. The sea is not generous. Its tides are cruel. Its winds sharp. Boats are small, handmade from split oak and sealed with pitch. Every journey is a risk. Picture a man named Edric, face like leather, hands gnarled from decades of rope and salt. He rises in the cold black before dawn, lighting a lantern with fingers that barely feel anymore. The boat creaks beneath him as he pushes off into the mist. The sea offers nothing today, nor did it yesterday. The fish have grown scarce, and the storms more sudden. Still, he goes, because he must, because hunger is louder than fear. On land, his wife Alda tends their youngest, just a few months old, wrapped tight in cloth near the fire. Her older daughter hauls water from a brackish well, her feet blue from cold. The house is always damp. The walls drip, the thatch never dries. Mold curls up the corners. Alda boils seaweed into a bitter broth and hums a lullaby so old no one remembers the words anymore. When Edric returns, he brings nothing. One line tangled, the net torn. They eat the last of the bread. Tomorrow, they will try again. Salt sores on the skin, aching joints from the cold, teeth rotting from lack of meat. These are not the signs of poor choices. These are the marks of a place forgotten by fortune. No lord visits here. No knight rides through. The priest comes twice a year. If that, confessions are whispered to the wind. And yet, despite it all, they endure. Alda kisses her child's forehead. Edric lays a hand on his daughter's head. The sea moans outside. The wind howls through the door, and still they hold on. Across Europe, thousands of such places dotted the landscape, some on hillsides swept with snow, others tucked between forests too dense for farming, each a small candle flickering in the dark. Let us turn now to one more place before rest overtakes you, a town, larger than the villages we've seen, but worse in its own way. This is a mining town, high in the mountains, where silver veins run deep and frost clings to every stone. The buildings are taller here, narrow, crooked, blackened with soot. Fires never stop burning, and smoke chokes the air. The streets are steep, muddy in summer, and frozen solid in winter. There are no trees left here, no animals, just people and ash. The mines run under the town like veins, pulsing with sweat and blood. The workers, mostly men, some only boys, descend before dawn and do not return until long after dusk. Some never return at all. The shafts are tight, the The supports weak, the air thick with dust. Miners breathe shallow, their lungs slowly turning to stone. They work by torchlight, their faces streaked with soot and fear. Every tremor might mean collapse. Every echo might be the sound of something breaking. In one low hut at the edge of the town lives a woman named Marta. Her husband has not returned in 2 days. She waits by the door, listening for footsteps. She holds their son close, pressing a cloth to his mouth. As he coughs, the cloth comes away red. There is no doctor here, only the Mindsips foreman, who shrugs and says, "They come and go." When a collapse happens, no one says the names of the dead aloud. Instead, they sweep the streets, scrub the blood, and carry on. The tavern is loud with those still living, shouting against the dark, but at night, the whole town falls silent, like a held breath. Marta doesn't sleep anymore. She stares into the fire until it dies, then listens to the wind scrape across the boards. Sometimes she hears weeping. Sometimes she weeps herself. This place, for all its industry, has no joy. It eats the living and forgets the dead. And yet, when morning comes, Marta rises, dresses her son, and steps out into the cold. Because what else is there to do? Such were the worst places to live in medieval times. Not the castles with their stone walls and feasts, not the halls of kings or courts of bishops, but here, in these small, forgotten corners where people lived, suffered, and held on by their fingertips, where hope was not a promise, but a whisper, where joy, when it came, was fleeting and fragile as snow on a warm stone. Let these images rest with you now, not to trouble your dreams, but to soften your waking. For in these quiet sufferings, in these humble lives, we find the true heart of history. Close your eyes. If they are not already closed, let your breath drift deeper. Let the candle of thought flicker low. There is more to come, so much more. But for now, rest. The road is long, and morning is far. The air grows colder now. As we drift farther through time's winding halls, let your breathing remain soft and steady. There is no need to move. We are only observing, quiet as shadows, gentle as dust, slipping between stories long forgotten. The town we've just left behind, with its choking smoke and silent grief, fades into mist behind us. Our path curves through hills dappled in frost, past broken fences and silent wells, until we reach a place even the wind hesitates to pass through. A plague hospital. It stands on the edge of a small city, far enough that the bells of the church can barely be heard, close enough for the smell to carry on the breeze. The walls are pale stone, pitted and blackened. The windows are few, the doors stay shut. Inside, it is neither a place of healing nor peace. Walk slowly. Here, even the silence feels heavy. The air is thick with rotten vinegar, smoke from herbs burning in basins, meant to drive out foul spirits. Beds line the walls, low wooden planks or piles of straw, each one holding someone who is dying or already dead. Some moan, some are still, some whisper prayers too faint to hear. There are no proper nurses here, only the desperate and the conscripted. One of them is a boy named Jory, not yet 15, his eyes wide and hollow. His mother died last week. He was paid a few coins and a crust of bread to carry linens and ladle water. He does what he's told. He no longer looks the patients in the face. Every day he boils cloth in vinegar and brings thin gruel to the living. Sometimes they speak to him, ask for news of home, for wine, for someone long gone. He lies gently, says the spring has come, that their child is well, that help is on the way. There is no help, no cure, no spring. Outside the hospital, a cart waits. When the bell rings once, it means someone has died. When it rings twice, more than one, The grave diggers no longer speak. They simply come, wrap the bodies, and go. Jory dreams of running away, but he knows the sickness follows. It clings, it travels, and so he stays. Hands raw from washing, mouth dry from the acrid air. Sometimes he wonders if he has died too, just very slowly, breath by breath, step by step. At night, the groans echo through the halls like voices in a storm. This place is not built for peace, only passage from suffering into silence. We move on, beyond the hills. Down the broken spine of the countryside lies a fortress, a monastery once proud, now weathered and alone. Its towers lean, its gardens are bare, the bells ring faintly through the fog. But few answer. Most of the monks have left or died. Those who remain do so in quiet obedience, cloistered in their stone cells, wrapped in wool against the cold. It is here that Brother Odoric lives. Or rather, waits. He came here young, full of fire and faith. He copied texts by candlelight, tended the sick, fasted for days, knelt in prayer until his knees bled. He believed, truly, that this life would lead him to truth. But now, in his 67th winter, Adelric walks the halls like a ghost. The chapel is nearly always empty. The hymns he once sang aloud are now whispered into stone. Each day is a ritual. Rise before the sun, cold water to the face, kneel, pray, walk in silence, tend what garden remains, copy one more line in a book no one will read. The ink runs thin. The parchment is rough. The words feel brittle. He wonders now if the silence is sacred, or simply empty. Outside, the wind claws at the stones. Inside, the candles sputter. One monk coughs endlessly in his cell, the sound scraping like wood dragged over stone. No one visits, no one knows what happens here. Adelric does not fear death, only fading, only being forgotten. He walks to the scriptorium each day with his lamp, watching his own hands tremble as he dips the quill. He writes not for others, but for himself, for the small hope that something, even a single word, might outlast the stone. And still, he prays for the living, for the dead, for the days when the halls were warm with voices. This monastery was once a place of learning, of safety. Now it is a place of echoes, another stone marker on the map of quiet despair. Let us leave it gently behind. Our path takes us next to the very edge of the known world, a border town, if you can call it that. Perched between warring kingdoms, battered by storms and men alike. The walls are low and broken, the guard towers lean. The streets are muddy, and the roofs all patched with scraps of leather and old cloth. Here lives a man named Tormund, a soldier not by choice, but by lack of options. He was pressed into service at 16, handed a rusted spear and a thin tunic, and sent to defend a line no one truly remembers. Now, decades later, he remains. Too broken to leave, too stubborn to die. He walks the wall each morning, eyes scanning the horizon for shapes in the mist. Riders, raiders, wolves. Sometimes he sees them. Sometimes they are only in his mind. His left hand is twisted from an old injury. His right eye is milky. He walks with a limp, but still, he walks. There is no honor here, no glory, only rot and rust and long, bitter winters. The barracks stink of mold. The rations are salt pork and hard bread. The men drink to forget, fight to feel, sleep only when they can no longer stay awake. Each night, Tormund sharpens his blade, though he knows it will not save him. He talks little. The others call him Old Gray. He does not mind. He writes letters he never sends, to no one in particular. Sometimes he buries them beneath stones, He says it keeps him sane. Once, he had a daughter. He hasn't seen her in 12 years. War comes in flashes. Brief, terrible, and then gone. A burned cottage. A cry in the night. A dozen arrows from the trees. The rest is waiting. Watching. Wondering which crack in the wall will let the end in. And yet, every morning, Tormund walks. These border towns, scattered like splinters across the edge of empire, were meant to be strongholds. But they became graves, not just of bodies, but of hope. Still, let us leave Tormund to his post and continue, not north, nor east, but downward, beneath the stone foundations of a castle, down past the kitchens, the storerooms, the armory, down into the earth, where light hesitates to follow. The dungeon. It is not a place built for time, only for forgetting. The walls sweat. The air is thick with rot. The torches flicker, but never warm. Here lies the worst of medieval punishment. Not just pain, but absence of sound, of space, of sky. We do not need to imagine a single prisoner. There are many. A young man, accused of stealing bread. His crime, hunger. An old woman, branded a witch, for knowing which herbs cure fever. A merchant who failed to pay a tithe. A priest who spoke out. A rival of the Lord who owns this place. They do not scream anymore, only mutter, or whisper, or weep. The rats here are bold. The straw is soaked. The iron manacles rust into skin. The water is brackish. The food is sometimes nothing. One prisoner, Thomas, has carved days into the wall. The scratches circle the cell like a broken crown. Another, called Rena, hums a lullaby she no longer remembers the words to. A third has gone silent altogether. No name left, no voice. Sometimes, footsteps come. Sometimes they mean release. Most often, they mean worse. No one visits here for long. Even the jailers leave quickly. It is hard to say how long people live in this place. Time doesn't pass here. It seeps. Eventually, even hope stops coming down the stairs. And yet, somehow, something human lingers in the scratches on the wall, in the tiny drawings, in the way they shift to let one another sleep. Even here, something tries to survive. We leave now, not with judgment, not with pity, but with quiet. There is so much more. Let your breath deepen now. Let your limbs relax. We will return to the surface soon, but not yet, for the worst places to live in medieval times were not always the darkest. Sometimes, they were simply the most forgotten. The dungeon fades behind us like a nightmare upon waking. We climb the stone stairs in silence, past the thick oak door, past the cold iron bars, back into the faint light of day. The air here is no less harsh, but it is open, and after the depths of the earth, even the wind feels kind. We walk westward now, across meadows wind-burned and brown, following the rutted roads made by carts heavy with grain, and sometimes with bodies. The sky is wide here, and the villages grow sparser, smaller, hungrier. We arrive at one such village, at the edge of a forest no one dares name. There is a boy here named Anselm, who dreams of seeing the sea, though he has never walked farther than the river bend. His world is 20 huts, one church, and the forest that looms like a wall of teeth and shadow. In the spring, they plant. In the summer, they toil. In the autumn, they pray for enough to last. And in the winter, they endure. This winter has been cruel. The snows came early. The harvest was meager. The rats were bold, and the wolves bolder. The forest no longer whispers. It howls. Anselm's father died the year before, coughing blood into a scrap of cloth. His mother makes candles from old fat and turns stale rye into porridge. There is no school, no books, only chores and the murmured stories by firelight, tales of spirits that walk in snow, of monks who turned into wolves, of kings who once rode through and never came back. The church bell no longer rings. The priest, Father Tobin, fell ill in early November. Now the chapel sits cold and empty, its windows blind with frost. The village council, 3 old men and a widow, meet by candlelight and argue about wolves, about grain, about signs and dreams. There are no answers, only frostbitten hands and hollow eyes. Anselm tends traps in the woods. Once, he found a hare. Once, only bones. Once, a child's shoe. He does not ask how it got there. He ties more snares. Each day is a rhythm of gray light and gray breath and silence. And yet he finds beauty, a bird, bright red against the snow, ice crystals forming a lacework on a broken window, the way the moonlight turns the snow into silver. In a place where even hope hibernates, small wonders become treasures. Still, they do not feed the stomach. The forest gives little, the ground less, and so each family tightens their belts and adds more water to the stew. In years like this, people disappear. Sometimes they walk into the woods and do not return. Sometimes they slip away in their sleep. Sometimes their names are no longer spoken. There are no records here, no ledgers, no witnesses, only memory, and memory fades. These forest villages were always vulnerable, too far from aid, too close to danger. When disease came, it stayed. When famine struck, there was no relief. They lived on the edge of the map, and so they slipped off it. Let us leave Anselm now, stoking a tiny fire with trembling hands, and continue. Far to the south lies a different world entirely. The heat there does not bite, but burns. The sun does not hide, but hammers. It is dry land, flat and cracked, where dust chokes the throat and bleaches the bone. We reach a desert outpost, small, dusty, remote. A trade route passes through, but not often. Camels groan in the distance. The well is low. There is a woman here named Sarah, who tends the water jars. Her father once owned 2 mules. Now she owns none. She wakes before dawn to gather what little water seeps from the deep well. Her hands are blistered, her sandals worn through, her face wrapped in cloth to guard against the wind. The settlement was built for travelers, not residents. But Sarah has never traveled. Her world is the well, the shade, the narrow alleyways of mud brick homes, and the thin, salty bread her mother bakes once a day. When caravans arrive, the town wakes up for a time. Traders bring stories, spices, coin, but they do not stay. They do not care. Their eyes look to distant cities, to ports and palaces. Sarah's eyes remain on the ground. Last year, the rains failed. This year the grain came late. There are whispers the well is cursed, that the old shrine has been defiled. Sarah does not believe in curses, only in hunger. Children here play with bones, draw in the dust. The school is closed. The teacher left. The healer is old and tired. Everyone waits for rain, for trade, for something to change, and nothing does. These desert settlements were once proud, stations for the bold, for those chasing the horizon. But when the world grew crueler, they became prisons of dust and longing. Sarah watches the sky. Always the sky. It gives nothing back. Let us walk again, down from the sun-baked lands, across the rivers swollen with snowmelt, into the marshes where land and water sleep side by side. Here the earth is never dry. The reeds whisper secrets no one wants to hear. The insects hum day and night, and yet, people live here. A family. 2 parents, 4 children, and a grandfather crowded into a single hut raised on stilts above the bog. Their names are not written anywhere. Their story, like most, will never be told. They live by fishing, by gathering reeds, by selling frog skins and eels to those few willing to make the journey through the mud. The mother, once strong, now limps from a broken ankle that never healed right. The father has a cough that rattles his chest and keeps him awake. The children are thin and restless. The grandfather is blind. Their home leans with the wind. The roof leaks. The firewood never dries. And yet they endure. The marsh brings fevers. A child burns with one now. She sweats and mutters. The others watch, silent. There is no priest here, no doctor, only what they know and what they fear. The eldest daughter places wet cloth on the child's brow. The mother stirs herbs. The grandfather sings something broken and low. The marsh does not care. It has taken many, but still they resist. Insects bite, leeches cling. Mold creeps up the walls, but in the quiet between storms, they laugh. They play games with bones. They tell stories of swamp spirits and lantern men. They are poor, but they are not without wonder. In these places, so easily dismissed by history, there was life, there was meaning, there was struggle, and song, and silence. The worst places to live were not marked on royal maps. They were not remembered, but they were real, and the people within them were just like us. Now rest your thoughts. Let the images blur softly into sleep. The boy in the woods, the woman by the well, the family in the marsh. None of them are alone now. Their stories breathe again, quiet and warm, in the stillness of your listening. Close your eyes, if you haven't yet already. There is more to come, much more. But for now, let your body sink deeper. Let the past carry you, not like a burden, but like a lullaby. The dreams of the marsh slip away like mist on water. We walk once more, gently, as if our footsteps might disturb what is already gone. The path beneath us is soft with moss, the air cooler now. Trees arch overhead like cathedral vaults, and the sound of birds is distant, uncertain. Beyond the forest lies a wide plain, flat and low and windswept. You can see far in all directions, but there is little to see. Only a few wooden fences, a crumbled watchtower, and far off, a manor house barely rising above the land like a half-sunk ship. The manor once belonged to a minor noble, long since gone to court or war or ruin. In his absence, a steward remains, a man named Alric, with a stiff back and colder eyes. He oversees the serfs who live on the estate. They do not live in the manor. They live in small huts, scattered like stones along the edge of the fields. Fields they do not own, do not profit from, but must tend as if their lives depend on it, because they do. One such family is that of Mirren, a girl of 12. She wakes before the sun and ties back her hair with a piece of twine. Her hands are already call-used. Her feet already know every stone in the path to the barley fields. Her father limps now, injured 2 seasons ago when the cart collapsed. There was no one to help him, no money for a healer. He tries to mend tools and weave baskets from reeds. Her mother works the fields with Mirren and her brothers. The soil is hard, the tools dull, the days endless. At the end of each harvest, the steward comes. He brings scales, parchment, and guards. The grain is measured, the taxes taken. What's left is often not enough. If someone objects, they are fined. If they cannot pay the fine, they are beaten. If they resist, they disappear. The law favors the manor. The church turns a blind eye. The world continues. Mirren dreams sometimes, She imagines herself in a city, maybe as a seamstress, or selling herbs, or singing in a quiet corner of a bustling market. But there is no road from here to there. Only work, only years. On Sundays, if the weather allows, the villagers gather beneath the old yew tree. There is no priest, just an old woman who reads from a tattered book and speaks softly of mercy and endurance. They listen, they nod, they return to work. Serfdom was not slavery, not by the laws of the land, but to those who lived it, the difference mattered little. Bound to the land, to the Lord, to a life not chosen. Mirren will marry, likely when she is old enough, to a boy from the next farm over. Their children will plant the same fields, carry the same burdens. And so the cycle continues. Now we move on, drifting north again. The wind sharpens, the sky lowers. A fishing village clings to the cliffs above the sea, battered by wind and salt. The huts here are sturdier than most, thick stone walls, slate roofs, but inside they are just as cold. The sea has been poor. The fish are fewer, the storms more cruel. Lauren, a widower of 40, sets out each morning in a narrow boat lashed with rope and patched with waxed canvas. His son, barely 10, bails water as they row. They cast nets, they wait, they try not to speak of the storm that took Lauren's brother last spring. When the waves rise too high, they return with nothing. At home, his daughter mends nets and watches the horizon. She speaks little. Her mother's shawl hangs by the hearth, untouched. The wind creeps in through the stone. The cold settles in the bones. Salted fish are traded inland for oats or barley. But trade is scarce. The roads are poor. Bandits have taken to roaming again. Once, this village thrived. A monastery nearby kept records, built schools, held feast days. Now the monastery is abandoned. The roof caved in. The books ruined by damp. The priest left 2 winters ago. His replacement never came. The villagers keep their own calendar now, by the tides, by the stars, by the deaths. Still, there is music. At night, Lauren's daughter plays a lute, roughly made, strings repaired with gut. The notes are soft, and the songs old, but they remind the people they are more than mouths and labor. They are memory. The wind howls, the door creaks, the fire cracks. Still, they live. Far inland, beyond the forests and plains, we find another place. A way station on an old Roman road, crumbling under the weight of time. Once, it was a market town. Now, it is little more than a crossing of roads, a few buildings, and a ruined tavern. A woman named Hilda keeps what remains of the inn. She's not old, but her face is drawn, her hair threaded with gray. Her husband vanished during the Harvest War 5 years back. She assumes he's dead. She never got word. She feeds travelers what she can. Bread, ale, sometimes dried fruit or goat cheese. Her 2 sons run errands, fetch wood, scare off beggars. The guests are fewer now. The roads are not safe. The local baron levies tolls, but offers no protection. Bandits roam, wolves too. The town well has run low. The mayor, such as he is, has taken to rationing. There is no market anymore. Just bartering, eggs for cloth, ale for leather. When night falls, shutters close early. Dogs whine. No one goes out. Hilda tells stories by the hearth. She remembers better years. She makes them sound sweeter than they were. The boys listen, eyes wide. In a world growing smaller, stories become treasures. And still, the dust gathers. The roads crack. The world moves on. We return now to one final place for this night. A castle Not grand, not majestic, but stern and squat. Perched on a cliffside like a clenched fist, the Lord is old and half blind. His wife long dead. His sons are off at court, or war, or worse. Only a skeleton staff remains. Servants, soldiers, a steward, a cook, among them a girl named Isolde, a scullery maid, 14, barefoot more often than not. Her world is stone floors, cold kitchens, heavy pots, and harsh words. She sleeps in the loft above the pantry, eats what is left, speaks only when spoken to. The head cook is cruel, the steward crueler. Once she spilled a pot and was struck hard enough to bleed. No one stopped it, no one mentioned it again. She dreams only of warmth, of silence. The castle is drafty. Fires seldom reach the corners. The banners hang limp with dust. When guests come, she works twice as hard. When they don't, she scrubs endlessly. Her hands are red, her eyes downcast, her voice nearly forgotten. Sometimes, she hums, quietly, beneath her breath, an old lullaby, half remembered. It is not much, but it is hers, and perhaps that is enough, because even in the worst places, beneath the mud, beneath the silence, beneath the weight of labor and grief, something remains, a breath, a song, a name, a light. Let your own breath soften now. Let your eyes close if they haven't already. The world we've walked through tonight was not easy, but it was real, and in its quiet struggles, it tells us something enduring, something worth remembering. There are more roads to follow, more stories to gather. But for now, let stillness take hold. Rest now. Let the past keep its watch while you sleep. Night deepens, and the stars wheel overhead, unseen, perhaps, but steady. We move gently onward, our lantern glowing with the soft light of remembrance. Every step forward carries us deeper into the quiet truth of the past, a truth not written in bold ink or carved into great monuments, but whispered in the ashes, carried on the wind, and remembered only in sleep. Our path winds southward now, following a narrow river that glints faintly beneath a waxing moon. On its muddy banks, halfway between two cities that barely know it exists, sits a village called Greven. The name means nothing. It is not famous. It is not marked in red on any royal chart, but it has stood for over a century, rebuilding each time war or weather strikes it down. The people here are weavers and shepherds. They do not have much, but what they have is worn with use, a loom passed down 3 generations, a spindle carved by a grandfather now gone, a coat patched so many times the original cloth is hidden beneath repairs. Among these villagers is a woman named Brenna. She is strong-shouldered, broad-palmed, and quiet. Her hands bear the grooves of her trade, thread pulled tight, year after year. She spins, she dyes, she weaves. From dawn until stars emerge, she works. Her husband died 3 winters ago, his chest broken by the fever. Her 2 children, one still young, help as they can. The eldest herds sheep on the hills. The youngest winds thread and listens for wolves. The wolves are growing bolder. Brenna dreams sometimes of safety, not comfort, just safety. A home where the roof does not leak. A day without injury. A night without fear. But even these dreams feel extravagant. Greven is a border village, never rich, often raided, always taxed. When soldiers come through, they take more than supplies. When the roads flood or the bridges fall, no one comes to help. And yet, life continues. Each morning, Brenna lights the fire, boils the oats, wraps her daughter's feet in wool, touches the carved spindle for luck. They do not celebrate much anymore, but on feast days, She braids her daughter's hair, and when she laughs, just once, it is enough. We drift now from the hills to the heart of a city. It is not the shining capital, not the royal seat. This city is crowded, cracked, and weary. Its name echoes through time, but never proudly. It is a place of smoke, soot, and stone. We find ourselves in an alley so narrow that two people cannot pass without touching. The sky is only a line between the rooftops. Windows are shuttered, and water drips from broken gutters. The smell is always the same, of rot, of waste, of life too dense for air. A boy named Noel lives here, or survives here, depending on the day. He is small for his age, maybe 10, maybe 12. He doesn't know. He sleeps beneath a cart when it rains. On dry nights, he curls between two crates behind the baker's wall. The warmth from the oven sometimes reaches him. He earns what he can. Fetching water, emptying chamber pots, running messages. He moves quickly and speaks softly. When the city is kind, he eats twice. When it is cruel, not at all. He's seen men whipped in the square. He's seen women dragged away. He's heard rumors of rats in the well and ghosts in the plague house. But he stays. Where would he go? He had a mother once. He remembers her face, her voice, a song about the moon. She died last winter. He does not speak of her. Instead, he works. He learns the streets. He watches. And he waits. Not for rescue. That idea vanished long ago. He waits for a coin, for a crust, for a moment when the guards look away and he can run. There are many like Noel, scattered like ashes across cities big and small. Street children, chimney sweeps, messengers, pickpockets, the forgotten ones, their suffering rarely named, their deaths even less so. And still, they live. We leave Noel in his corner, his knees drawn tight, his breath slow and even. He does not sleep often, but when he does, he dreams of light. We move once more, this time into the highlands. The terrain is rough, sharp ridges, narrow passes, deep locks that reflect nothing but sky. The wind here does not whisper. It speaks clearly, without kindness. In a narrow glen lies a hamlet, no more than 5 homes, and a crumbled tower. The people here are hard and quiet, their language thick with consonants, their gaze wary. Among them is a man named Callan. He is not old, but his body says otherwise. His right leg drags. His fingers do not close fully. Years of carrying peat and chopping timber have left him twisted like the trees around him. Still, he works. The land offers little. Sheep do poorly on these hills. Crops barely grow. But the people remain. Callan was born here. So were his parents. His sister left long ago. He stayed. There is no church, no market, no road, just paths and weather. The winters are brutal. The summers short, but the people endure. They gather at the hearth of whoever has firewood. They tell stories older than kingdoms, stories of fae, of giants, of gods long gone. Callan knows them all. He does not tell them often, but when he does, even the wind grows still. There is no coin here. Trade happens in goods and deeds. A pail of milk for a patch of leather, a repaired roof for a loaf of oatcake. They are not rich, but they are not without pride. Still, when sickness comes, it lingers. When a cow dies, it is a tragedy. When someone disappears into the glen, no one follows. The world does not know this place, but it knows the world. Callan sharpens his knife on stone and watches the valley below, wrapped in mist. He speaks a single line in the old tongue, a blessing for the unseen. Then he begins again. We descend, now, softly, back toward the coast. A new kind of place awaits. Not a village, not a castle, but a ship, creaking, leaking, bound for lands only half known, a colonial expedition. A promise of something better, somewhere else. But for the passengers aboard, it is not adventure, it is desperation. One such passenger is a young woman named Alice. Her face is pale, her hair bound tight, her hands blistered from the ropes. She signed on as a servant in exchange for passage. 7 years of work in a place she cannot imagine. The ship is overcrowded. The food is salted, moldy, the water brackish, the air below deck thick with illness and fear. She does not know most of the people aboard, and they do not speak her dialect. She dreams sometimes of wide fields and warm homes, but mostly she dreams of food. Storms come. The ship groans, buckets are passed, prayers are whispered, some are not answered. The journey lasts weeks, then months. The stars change. When land finally appears, it is not the paradise promised. It is wild, hostile, damp. There are no houses, only mud and trees and silence. Alice is put to work immediately, cutting brush, hauling water, boiling herbs she does not recognize. The others look tired, hollow. The native people watch from the trees, warily, rightfully. Soon someone disappears, then another. The soil is poor, the tools are few, the overseer is cruel. Still, Alice works. She must. Her contract binds her, and her fear roots her. Colonial life was not riches for most. It was cold, hunger, backbreaking labor, and isolation. A world torn from one place and forced into another. But even here, Alice finds moments of stillness, the call of a bird she's never heard, the touch of fresh water on her face, the quiet warmth of another settler's hand. Even in exile, a kind of humanity survives. Let it settle over you now. Like wool on the skin, like mist on the fields. These places, the ship, the alley, the glen, the ruined road, are behind us for now, but their echoes linger. As you lie still, perhaps you can hear them. The loom tapping in the dark, the child humming a forgotten song, the wind across stone. Let sleep carry you gently now. Let history rock you slowly toward rest. We will return again. There is more to explore, more stories to uncover, more quiet truths to cradle in the quiet dark. But for now, rest. You are safe here. Sleep may have found you already, or perhaps you're drifting, your mind gently following the cadence of time. Either way, we continue unhurried, soft-footed, through the folds of forgotten lives, toward places not meant for legend, but for quiet remembrance. The road curves now toward the mountains. We pass through a narrow valley, where snow lingers even into spring, and the sky presses low above the trees. Here lies a mining village, wedged between cliffs like a secret. Smoke curls from low chimneys. The buildings are all stone, slate-roofed, built to endure wind and avalanche alike. But inside them there is little comfort. The mine lies to the west, a dark scar in the earth. It is deep, cold, wet, and it eats men. No one moves fast here. Limbs are stiff, breath short. The people live beneath a permanent ache. Among them is Oswin, a miner since boyhood, now past 40. His body carries the marks, twisted fingers, one eye milk-blind, a shoulder that never healed right. He wakes before dawn, eats what's left, walks the narrow path to the tunnel mouth. The silence of the mine presses around him long before he descends. Inside, there is only torchlight, creaking timbers, and the occasional drip of unseen water. The air is thick with dust, not the kind that stirs, the kind that lingers, that settles into lungs, into thoughts. They dig for iron here. The ore is hard to reach. The tools are poor. The shafts are narrow. Every blow of the pickaxe is an effort measured in breath. Sometimes a tunnel collapses. Sometimes a man screams. Sometimes no one speaks at all. Oswin does not complain. Complaints echo, and echoing is dangerous underground. The walls remember. His son, barely 15, works a smaller tunnel. Too small for grown men, too dangerous, but still safer than starving. There are no safety laws, no compensation, only the hope of surviving until the next feast day. Oswin no longer prays for riches, only for light, for the chance to keep his son alive. When they emerge at dusk, blinking against the snow glow, the air feels thin, strange, a different kind of silence. They walk home. They eat. They sleep, then do it again. In towns like this, time is not measured in years, but in tools worn down and backs that no longer straighten. The mine never closes, and the mountain never forgets. Let us leave them now, with quiet respect, and move toward the lowlands once more. Across a wide moor stretches a road once used by kings. Now it serves cattle, the occasional merchant, and the scattered lives of herders who've made a home where grass meets sky. Here lives a woman named Hild, alone with her flock, and a dog too old to bark. She was once married, once a mother, but time and illness and war took more than she had to give. Still, she remains. Each day, she leads her sheep across the wind-cut grass, checks the sky for storms, listens for wolves. There are no neighbors nearby, only the wind and the distant toll of a chapel bell when the air is just right. Her cottage is small, half sunk into a hill. The fire burns slowly. The roof leaks, but it is hers. She keeps wool wrapped in bundles, spins when she's not tending, barters when traders pass. A few coins here, a bit of bread there, it is enough. At night, the moor grows black. Stars flood the sky, but Hild rarely looks up. She sits by the fire and talks to no one, or perhaps to everyone she once loved. She does not ask for pity, only weather kind enough not to kill the lambs. Once a year, she walks to the nearest village, 2 days each way, to buy salt and candle wax. The journey is hard. Her feet swell, her knees ache. Still, she makes it. Solitude, in the Middle Ages, was rarely chosen. It was given, or left behind, and those who bore it, like Hild, learned to carve out meaning in silence. Let us leave her now, her fingers wrapped around a mug of something warm, her eyes half closed against the wind's howl outside. Our path turns again, this time toward the riverlands, broad, fertile, but treacherous when the rains come. Floods here are not news. They are part of the rhythm, a rhythm that takes as much as it gives. We reach a town half submerged, where wooden walkways crisscross the streets like spiderwebs above the water. Boats replace carts. Everything smells of wet timber and mold. Here, people live with damp clothes, damp food, damp lungs. There is a boy named Rennick, who delivers goods by boat. He has never ridden a horse, but he knows every bend of the river. He ferries bread, fish, sometimes firewood. In lean times, he smuggles salt, herbs, wine, hidden beneath nets. The law here is slippery. Like the river itself, the mayor holds court from the upper floor of the only dry hall. The constable wears fine boots, never steps in the mud. Rennick's family lives on the lower level of a flooded inn. They use the top bunk for sleeping, the windowsill for drying herbs. His mother boils fish stew every day. His sister sews torn sails. When a storm comes, they tie everything down, hope the boat stays afloat. Pray the river does not rise too far. Illness lingers in the damp, coughs that become fever, cuts that do not heal. Still, life flows like the water, endlessly, blindly forward. Rennick does not dream of leaving. He dreams of a better boat, one with a roof. Let us drift from the river, carried gently on its current until we reach firmer ground, to the edge of a forest where soldiers once marched, where banners once flew. Now only stumps remain and shallow graves. Here lies a village, built from ruins, from stones scavenged from broken towers, from planks stolen from bridges that no longer span rivers. The people here are settlers of a kind, displaced by war, by plague, by fire. They it made a new life in the bones of the old. A man named Elric serves as both blacksmith and gravedigger. He shoes donkeys and buries the dead, often on the same day. His forge is small, his tools old, but his hands are steady. He does not speak much. He listens, he remembers, he builds where others have forgotten. The town has no name, just a number, given by the tax clerk who passed through 2 years ago and never returned. They grow turnips and cabbages, keep goats, burn dung when the wood runs out. Every month, they gather at the old church, roofless now, to speak of needs and sorrows, not in prayer, but in unity. There is no priest, but they remember the rites. Elric rings the bell when someone is born, and again, when someone dies. Sometimes, it is the same day. Still, they live. In the cracks of empire, between the lines of maps, people built lives, not grand, not easy, but real. You may feel sleep close now. Let it. Let the voices fade. Let the candle burn low. We have traveled far, from mines to moors, from river towns to ruined walls, and yet we've only just begun. There are more stories waiting, more souls to meet, but for now, rest. Let the wind die down. Let the dust settle. Close your eyes and dream gently. The darkness thickens now, not with menace, but with depth, like a warm blanket drawn over tired limbs. As we continue through these quiet lives, the road becomes softer, the air heavier with stories, not yet told, but patiently waiting. We step now onto stony soil once soaked in blood, long since dried and faded. A battlefield, yes, but not one fresh with battle. This land has seen years pass since soldiers last clashed steel here, and yet the weight lingers. At the edge of that field stands a small chapel, crooked with age, walls patched with timber and prayers. Around it, a hamlet clings like moss. These are the remnants of survivors, not just of war, but of all that comes after. One of them is Bera, a widow for the second time. Her first husband was a carpenter, quiet and careful. Her second, a soldier pressed into service by the Lord, who never returned to claim victory or corpse. She lives with her brother now, who drinks more than he works and coughs more than he speaks. Bera grows onions in the garden, mends clothes for neighbors, and watches the chapel bell for any news of the outside world. The war never officially ended. It simply faded. The knights went elsewhere. The banners fell, but the damage remained. Fields salted, livestock gone, sons not buried, because they were never found. Each week, Bera lights a candle for the dead, not for her husband only, but for them all. There are children here now who do not remember the war, only its silence. They play beside shattered stone walls, find rusted spear tips in the soil, turn helmets into pots. The past is a playground, and yet it watches them. Bera teaches them songs, old ones from before the fighting, and when they sing, it sounds almost like hope, but she does not expect much. She expects another poor harvest, another early frost, another neighbor lost to illness or accident or despair. She expects to endure, as many do. We leave her now, candle flickering against the chapel window, her breath fogging the glass, from ruined land to the farthest edge of the kingdom. We travel now to the coast, not bustling with trade or lined with fine ships, but harsh and salt-bitten. Wind lashes the shore. The gulls cry above, but even they seem tired. There is a lighthouse here, crumbling, leaning, once manned by monks, then soldiers, now by no one. But beneath it, clinging to rock like stubborn barnacles, is a fishing post. 3 families live here. No road reaches it, only boats and winding goat paths. The land is thin, the cliffs steep, the wind unforgiving. One of those who live here is a girl named Lice. She is perhaps 13, though she wouldn't know how to prove it. Her skin is always red from salt, her hair matted by sea spray. She knows the tides better than the priest knows scripture. Each morning, she checks the tide pools, harvests mussels, helps her father lower nets into the water. They eat what they catch. They sell what little they don't need. But trade comes rarely. The nearest market is 2 days' walk. The roads are too rough, the horses too few. In winter, the sea ices at the edges. Boats crack, nets tear, salt crusts the windows. People here do not talk of someday. They talk of tomorrow, and sometimes not even that. Still, Lice sings while she works, hums tunes older than the language of maps, songs about sea queens and lantern spirits, songs her mother taught her. Her voice is clear, untrained, but strong. When she sings, even the gulls go quiet for a moment. There are worse places to live, but this one, this edge of the world, is lonely. We return inland now, along a path marked only by hoofprints and travelers' prayers carved into stones. Ahead lies a leper colony. It is set apart, as all such places are, beyond a wooded rise, hidden by trees and shame. The church built it, centuries ago. A place of isolation, not mercy. Inside its crumbling walls are a dozen souls, each marked, some by the disease in its visible form, fingers gone, noses sunken, skin pale and scarred. Others bear no outward wound, only the brand of fear from the world outside. One of them is a man named Idran. He was once a scribe. His fingers, once turned pages, copied letters with care. Now, he spends his days sitting beneath the walnut tree inside the compound, watching the sky. He is gentle, soft-spoken, still with the habit of writing invisible lines on his thigh, as if composing letters to someone he can't name. The others keep their distance. Even here, among the outcast, fear persists. It's a habit hard to unlearn. But Idran greets them all, shares his soup, his fruit, his firewood. He teaches the children to read, those born here to parents marked by exile. No one visits, no supplies come regularly. Only a monk once a month, with bread and wine and eyes that do not linger. And yet, in the evenings, the lepers gather. They sit together in silence, or in song. They pray not for healing, they know better, but for peace. Idran recites old poems, from memory, the kind written when the world believed in gentleness. Here, in this place built to forget, there is still learning, still kindness, and the wind that passes through the gates carries not despair, but resilience. Let us go now, softly. Not far from there lies an estate, half ruined, once owned by minor nobility, now kept alive by the labor of those who never claimed a title. Servants, tenants, children born in kitchens, raised in stables. One of them is Tomasin, a girl of 17, who works in the laundry. The room is always damp. Smoke clings to the walls. Her hands are cracked, her back bent early. She hauls water before sunrise, scours linen with lye, wringing, scrubbing, lifting, folding, from dark to dark. The lady of the house does not know her name. The steward misremembers it. Her friends call her Tom. There are moments, small ones, where she finds joy. A biscuit snuck from the kitchen, a laugh shared with the stable boy, the sound of wind in the trees outside when all others sleep. She watches the family from behind stone columns, their gowns, their banquets, their tapestries. She wonders what it would be like to eat with silver, to read a book, to leave a room whenever you like. But those are not dreams she can afford. So she sings, low and soft, while she works. The songs are not hers, but the voice is. And so she continues. Laundry, fire, sleep, repeat. And still, in the silence, something human endures. Even the forgotten had names. Even the silent had voices. Even the weary had moments of beauty. Let your breath slow now. Let your limbs grow heavy. You've walked through snow and salt, through ash and stone. You've sat beside miners and weavers, sung with girls by the sea, and listened to poets no longer seen. Sleep is near. Let it come. The world we visit is old, but it is not gone. It waits quietly behind your thoughts, behind the noise of day. And when you return, it will still be here, waiting to be remembered. The air is still. Now, the world has grown quiet around us, wrapped in layers of memory and mist. You are safe here, tucked between stories, where the past unfolds slowly and softly, like fabric unwinding on a loom. No need to open your eyes. The path continues, even if you are already resting. Let us walk together once more, without rush, without noise, into the folds of time's long shadow. We move inland again, to a place ringed by hedges and low hills, where the trees lean in as though listening. There is no town here, only a scattering of farms, too poor to attract merchants, too remote to be taxed often. The soil is thin, hard-packed. The stones rise through it, like bones. On one such farm, we find a man named Erwin. He is 60, though in another time, another world, he might be called 40. His face is lined deep, his hands gnarled like the roots of the trees he plants each spring, hoping they'll bear fruit before another frost kills them. He was born in this same farmhouse. He knows every creak of the floor, every lean in the roof. He knows when the wind means rain, and when it means trouble. Erwin lives with his daughter Morel, who carries the strength he once had. She drives the ox, repairs the fence, digs the soil. They say little to each other, but not out of coldness. Words are rare, because they are rarely needed. Their lives are bound by work, seasons, weather, and grief. Erwin's wife passed during a bitter winter. Some years back, the midwife had no herbs left. The firewood was damp. The wind would not stop. No grave was dug until spring. Each spring now, he plants something in her honor. Sometimes the seed grows. Sometimes it doesn't. But still, he plants. They own little. 2 goats, a rusted plow, a table carved by Erwin's grandfather. But when the rain is soft and the hearth is warm, and Morel hums her mother's tune while cutting bread, it feels, for just a moment, like enough. We leave them there, bathed in the amber light of a fire nearly gone out, and turn toward the edge of empire, far to the northeast, where the forests grow taller and colder. There is a fortress, not grand, not ceremonial, functional, brutal, a garrison more than a home. It guards a pass that few now travel. Inside its stone walls are soldiers, stationed not for glory or conquest, but for deterrence, for holding a line that no longer moves. One of them is Janek, conscripted 5 years ago from a town that no longer exists. Burned in a raid, rebuilt, burned again. He speaks rarely, eats quickly, sleeps in armor. His hands are always cold. The men here speak in murmurs. The commander is cruel. The food is worse. The cold seeps into stone, into steel, into thought. Janek dreams of warmth, of bread, of music, but wakes always to silence. They train in snow, sharpen blades by moonlight, patrol the same paths again and again, hoping to find nothing, dreading when they don't. When a scout goes missing, no search is made. When someone falls ill, they are left in the barracks until they either rise again or stop breathing. Janek carries a small token, his sister's ring twisted to fit his thumb. He rubs it when the nights grow long. There is no priest here, no festival, only rust, rot, and routine. Still, each morning, Janek wakes. He lights a small fire. He drinks the thin broth. He tightens the leather straps on his boots. Because even here, on the edge of nowhere, people live, and they wait. We return west, then south, across frost-hardened fields toward a cloister, a convent, in the hills, hidden by birch trees. It is quiet here, but not serene. This is not a place of peace. It is a place of obedience. The nuns live simply, too simply. They wear shoes in winter only if the bishop is expected. They eat roots and oatcakes. They sleep on straw. Among them is Sister Lynette, once daughter of a merchant, given to the convent as penance for a failed dowry. She arrived young, learned quickly, did not complain. Now, she tends the sick room, a damp stone chamber where women are left when they cough too hard, or bleed too long, or forget their prayers. There are no remedies here, only faith. Lynette does what she can. She wipes brows, soothes trembling limbs, sings hymns too softly to be scolded for. The abbess watches her. The abbess always watches. Outside, the forest blooms. Lynette sees it only when fetching water or burying the dead. Once, she thought she saw a fox. Once, a stag. Once, she dreamt of walking beyond the walls and never returning. But dreams are disobedient, and disobedience is punished. So she prays, she waits, she endures. Even cloisters had walls not built of stone, but silence. We leave her with a whispered blessing and descend toward the floodplains where another life waits. Here lies a mill town, once prosperous, now sodden with neglect. The river is swollen, and the bridge washed out last year still lies shattered across the current. The mill still turns, but slowly. The grain is damp, the wheels groan, the rats are bold. Among the workers is a boy named Thu, small, quick, thin. He works the sack lines, lifting and lowering until his arms feel numb. There is no school, no one here reads. The priest left when the church roof collapsed. Thu lives in a room with 6 others. Some family, some not. They share a bed, a blanket, a single stool. On feast days, they steal cabbage from the garden. On fast days, they chew leather. The dreams of horses, not to ride, just to see. He's never left the town, never seen a castle, never heard music not sung by tired voices. He hums to himself when no one listens. He draws with charcoal on the inside of the mill door, shapes of birds, of wheels, of trees, none quite right, but close enough. Even in filth, art finds root. Even in suffering, joy flickers. And so we leave him, sweat-drenched, barefoot, smiling softly in his sleep. Let your breath deepen now. The world you've walked through tonight may be heavy, but it is not cruel without reason. It was hard, yes, but full of people who loved, who worked, who laughed, who endured. The worst places to live were not merely made of hunger and cold, but of being unseen. And here, in your listening, they are seen again. Let their stories settle over you like dust. Let your thoughts grow quiet. There is more to tell, always more. But for now, sleep, and let the silence hold you kindly. The hours deepen now. The world outside your body grows softer, dimmer, and still, the road through memory carries on, slow and winding, like a river in winter. We do not rush. We do not wake. We simply continue. Our path curls gently toward the north again, where the land is rocky and stubborn, and the wind does not whisper, it scolds. We arrive in a quarry town. It's not truly a town, just a slope carved bare by hands and iron, with huts huddled near the base, all streaked in white dust. The stone here is pale gray, almost silver under moonlight, and has been chiseled from the hillside for nearly a century. Among the workers is a man named Geraint. His hands are hard as bark, his back no longer straight, his beard gray not with age, but with dust that will never wash out. He lives in a stone hut with no floor but packed earth and a bed made from old crates. Each morning, before the sun touches the ridge, he sharpens his chisel, straps leather around his palms, and climbs to the ledge. He cuts the same line in the rock, hour after hour, with the rhythm of someone who no longer counts time. The foreman speaks rarely. When he does, it is with threat or demand. There are no safety rails, no harnesses, only stones and silence. Geraint lost 2 fingers in a collapse 5 years ago. A boy was crushed last summer. They covered him with a tarp until the priest arrived. Days later, no one talks about it now. The quarry feeds the cathedral being built in a city far away. Geraint has never seen it. Only heard it is tall, that it shines, that it will last forever. His own bones ache, as though turned to stone already. And yet, he climbs each day, carves each day, returns each night. At twilight, he sits by the fire with the others. They drink something bitter. They speak of weather and wolves, and once, long ago, of music. No one sings anymore, but Geraint remembers the words. Let us step away now, quietly, letting the wind erase our tracks. Beyond the hills, we find another place, not a town, not a road, just a clearing, low, damp, forgotten, and in it, a structure of reeds and thatch. A healer's hut. She is old, this woman. Her name is Nena. Her hands are brown and papery. Her voice dry like pine needles. She has outlived 3 lords, 2 floods, and 1 fire. She keeps jars of dried herbs hung from the ceiling. Bones of birds, scraps of linen inked with symbols no priest would bless. Some call her witch, others call her wise. She listens more than she speaks. People come to her not with coin, but with trust or desperation. Mothers with fevers, men with boils, children who do not cry when they should. She treats them with poultices, prayers, or silence. Some get better, some do not. She does not promise anything, only care. The church sends warnings. The bailiff sends threats. But when the priest falls ill, he sends his nephew to her in secret. At night, Nena sits by the fire. She stirs herbs into broth and hums songs she doesn't remember learning. She dreams sometimes of wolves in human shape. She dreams of birds who speak in Latin. And sometimes, she dreams of nothing at all. She does not fear death. She fears forgetting. Even her name will vanish. But her hands have touched hundreds. That is enough. Let us move now, away from the firelight, into the fields. There is a camp here, temporary, but tired. A group of travelers. Some say refugees, some say exiles, some say worse. Their accents don't match. Their clothes are patched from too many places. They travel because they must. Among them is a boy named Petar. He was born in motion, on a cart somewhere between towns. He doesn't know which. His mother tells stories from her home, far to the east. His father carves flutes from bone. Neither speaks much of what they left behind. They camp where they can, eat what they find, trade when they're lucky. Sometimes they are chased off. Sometimes rocks are thrown. Once, Petar was struck with a boot for asking a question at the wrong time. Still, they move. The other children play in the dirt, make songs from nonsense, pretend the world is fair. Petar likes the stars. They're the only thing that never change. He counts them when he can sit sleep. He's memorized which ones come first in different seasons, which ones guide the caravan, which ones blink just like his sister when she's pretending not to cry. The travelers are tired, and dirty, and scared. But they laugh. They argue. They live. Even in motion, they find ways to remain whole. And when the sun rises, they pack their things and walk again. We walk beside them a little longer, then take a different path, toward a watermill, old and half-rotted. A single family keeps it running, or tries to. The miller's name is Jocelyn. She was left the mill by her father, who was left it by his mother, but the water wheel now groans with age, and the stream has slowed. Still, she grinds what little grain is brought. She takes repairs in trade. Her children help when they can. The roof leaks. The paddles crack. The stones wear down. But the work is steady. And the walls are thick, and the sound of grinding grain, slow, rhythmic, feels like time itself passing in a gentle rhythm. There are bad days, when someone arrives with blame, when someone leaves with less than they hoped for. But there are good days too, when a neighbor brings honey, when the flour sifts clean, when the light through the dust looks like morning instead of morning. Jocelyn sings as she works, softly, songs in a language no one else uses anymore. She doesn't teach them. She just lets them live in the air. And so the wheel turns, not quickly, but it turns. Even forgotten mills remember movement. And now, perhaps, you feel it in your own body. The turning of stillness, the settling of stories. Let your shoulders ease. Let your breath soften. Let the silence widen around you like a river at dusk. We have seen much, walked far, but the world of long ago stretches still ahead, and you are safe to rest within it. Sleep is not an escape. It is a returning to rhythm, to quiet, to being held in the arms of time. Let your eyes grow heavy now. The worst places to live were not without beauty, only without witness. But you are here, and so they are remembered. The night deepens still, and the stars overhead, though hidden from sight, spin patiently, their ancient pattern unchanged. We drift now into another layer of the past, one not louder, not more tragic, only different, because suffering wears many clothes, and the world, even at its worst, was always more than pain. We come now to the forest borderlands, between kingdoms, between laws. These woods are thick, old, filled with shadows that don't always wait for nightfall. Trees lean toward the path, as if eavesdropping. The air smells of wet leaves, bark, and things left to rot gently. In a small clearing surrounded by thorns, we find a charcoal burner's hut. It is rough, mud-packed, roofed with bracken and smoke-darkened thatch. but it stands. The man who lives here is called Fen. He speaks to no one most days, but not from cruelty, simply because there is no one near enough to speak to. He burns wood to charcoal in stacked kilns, covered mounds that smoke for days. The work is dirty, repetitive, and dangerous. If the mound collapses, the fire eats everything. If it smolders wrong, he starts over. His hands are black, his skin gray. His beard carries the smell of smoke no rain will wash out. He sells the charcoal to ironmongers downriver. They pay little, argue often, and accuse always. Still, they need him, and he needs coin. Fen eats what he grows. When he grows anything, mushrooms, roots, barley. When the deer don't find it first, he sleeps on straw, wrapped in an old cloak, wakes with the birds, speaks to them sometimes, not out of madness, just habit. He once had a wife, a daughter too. The fever took them both, one winter long ago. Since then, he has lived here, making fire, selling ash. He sings, when the fire crackles, low songs, with no words. We leave him now, not out of pity, but of respect, and move on, to a place no less hard, but shaped by cold, not flame. We arrive at a salt pan, on the coast, where the tide draws in and out like breath. The wind is cruel here, the work worse. A woman named Aelith scrapes salt into baskets with a flat bone. Her skin is cracked, her eyes always squinting. She works barefoot, ankles deep in brine, bent forward for hours. Salt is precious, but the labor to make it is punishing. She is one of 30, all working under a steward who keeps the best cuts for himself and lets the rest fight over scraps. Aelith has no husband. He drowned during the last storm. His boat returned without him. Now she works for both of them. The others are much the same, widows, orphans, bastards, the broken and the unseen. But they are not silent. They joke, sometimes, loudly, coarsely, a defense against the wind and the cold. Aelith doesn't laugh much, but she smiles when one of the younger girls tells a tale so outrageous, even the gulls turn their heads. They gather driftwood for fire, trade salt for potatoes, burn seaweed when nothing else is left. The work never ends. The sea never sleeps, but neither do they. We step carefully from the salt flats, across stone paths washed smooth by centuries of tired feet, and into a village hidden in the valley of old hills. Cattle country. Here, people live by milk and by muscle. We meet a boy named Caden, whose days are shaped entirely by animals. He wakes before light, helps deliver calves, mends fences, gathers peat. The family owns 6 cows, enough to live. Barely. Caden's father is hard, not cruel, but made of stone, like the land. They speak little, work much. His mother churns butter by hand, sings while she works, loud and slightly off-key. It's the only thing louder than the cows. There is no church nearby, no manor, no school, only grass, wind and work. Caden dreams of something larger, not riches, not greatness, just elsewhere. He has never seen the sea, never seen a city, never even seen a horse not pulling something. Still, he waits. He watches the clouds. He carves birds into fence posts, just to make the fields feel less empty. And sometimes at night, he sleeps beneath the stars, just to remember how big the world could be. We leave him, face turned to the sky, a blade of grass in his teeth, and return now to a deeper shadow, a prison. Not for nobles, not a tower, just a hole in the earth, covered by a hatch, hidden beneath a crumbling fort. Inside are 10 men. Maybe 11. It's hard to tell in the dark. The air is thick with sweat, mold, and something worse. Chains clink sometimes. But mostly, there is stillness. One of them is called Mathis. He was a baker once, or a soldier, or a thief. No one remembers anymore. Least of all him. He hums to himself, quietly, a child's rhyme, over and over. The guards do not speak to the prisoners. They lower food in buckets, water too, sometimes clean, sometimes not. There is no trial, no date, no sentence, only time and rats. Sometimes a prisoner disappears, moved or buried. It doesn't matter. The others shift to fill the space. Mathis keeps count of days by the dripping from the ceiling. He's on drip number 37,000, give or take. The outside world has forgotten them, but they have not forgotten each other. Even in silence, they know who wakes first, who whimpers in sleep, who has lost the strength to whisper. They carry each other Sep's names like relics, because when the world takes everything else, even a name becomes sacred. We climb from that hole, carefully, carrying no judgment, only remembrance, and then fittingly, perhaps, we end tonight's path on the road itself, not a destination, not a home, just the stretch of space between one struggle and the next. There are travelers here, pilgrims, peddlers, performers, runaways. Among them, an old woman named Diva. She pulls a cart with one wheel that squeaks. Inside it, pots, wool, dried fish, a tin whistle. She walks slowly, but she walks. From town to town, from church to church, singing for food, telling fortunes for warmth, selling ointments she mixes herself. She does not lie, but she does exaggerate. Children love her. Priests do not. She has been run off more than once, laughed at more than once, but she still walks, because walking is what keeps her alive. Her knees ache, her eyes blur, but her voice, still strong, draws crowds. She sings old songs. Some say pagan, some say nonsense. She sings them anyway. At night, she sleeps beside her cart, wraps her feet in wool, dreams of the days when she had company, then wakes, eats, walks, because the road doesn't dead end. It simply curves, like time, like this story. And now, perhaps, you are far from waking, or maybe just barely tethered to this gentle journey. That Sep's all right. You do not need to remember it all. You do not need to hold on to each name. They are held now, in you, in the silence, in this soft remembering. Let your mind drift. Let your breath be the only sound, and let the past keep watch until morning comes. You're doing just fine. Whether your eyes are already closed or your mind is only just beginning to wander, this road continues, calmly and without urgency. The stories you've heard of stonecutters, salt gatherers, forgotten healers and charcoal burners, they are all still with us. They drift behind like lanterns left glowing, and ahead, more lives wait, ordinary, enduring, worth remembering. We follow now a slow river through the heartlands, where spring floods leave the earth soft and summer droughts harden it like clay. The land is both generous and cruel. At its edge is a convent school, the sword reserved not for the wealthy, but for the tolerated, the daughters of merchants, illegitimate nobles, widows' children. In one of its smaller rooms, lit by narrow windows and filled with chill morning air, a girl named Yisbet kneels to scrub the floor. She is 12. She has never owned a dress that wasn't mended. She has never tasted honey, only heard it described in sermons. The nuns are strict, but not unkind. They teach the girls to read, only scripture, of course, and to sew, to count, to speak softly, and above all, to obey. Yesbet listens well. Too well, perhaps. Her voice has grown so quiet she sometimes forgets to use it at all. But when she writes, on parchment when permitted, on slate when not, her letters are careful, beautiful. She copies passages from the Psalms, sometimes from memory. She dreams, occasionally, of writing her own words. But that is not allowed. There is no ink for dreaming. No pen for girls like her. Still, she imagines the sound it would make, the scratching of her own story onto a page. Her world is small. Stone walls, straw mattress, morning bells, lessons, chores, cold fingers, warm bread once a week. But she watches. She remembers everything. The names of birds outside the sill, the cracks in the chapel ceiling, the way the candle wax pools when left alone too long. She is not invisible, only unseen. Let us move from stone halls to a place where the wind never stops, a narrow isthmus, whipped year-round by gales. The grass here is short and sharp, the soil thin, the sea always near. There's a watch hut here, a wooden box with a shuttered window facing the waves. A man named Brand sits inside, wrapped in wool, staring out across the gray horizon. He is not a soldier. He is not a monk. He is not quite anything. He is paid a pittance by the port authority in a town 10 miles away to look for ships in trouble, or pirates, or anything strange. He's seen gulls, whales once, a boat in pieces after a storm. But mostly, he sees the sea. He eats dried fish, chews seaweed for his teeth, collects rain in barrels. Sometimes, once a month, a boy brings bread and news, most of it old. Sometimes, no one comes at all. Brand has no calendar. He measures time by wind. He speaks aloud, sometimes, to keep his voice from dying. He tells stories to the storm, of a girl he once knew, of a brother he lost, of a poem his mother used to recite. No one answers, but he keeps telling them, because he is still here. And even here, on a cliff above a forgotten channel, surrounded by nothing but salt and sound, the stories still matter. We leave Brand to his vigil, and walk the path inland, toward the groves where apples once grew in abundance. Now the trees are sick. A blight spread years ago. Half the orchard is bare, the other half browning. Still, the family who owns it stays. A woman named Marta runs it now, with her son Thomas. Her husband left for the city to find work, and never sent word again. Marta keeps a knife tucked into her apron, not for defense, but to cut away dead bark and bad fruit. She knows every tree by touch, by smell, by sound. Thomas climbs them when he can, carries buckets of water, sets traps for the rabbits that chew the roots. They do not speak much. The work fills the air. They dry what fruit they can, press what's worth pressing, sell cider to travelers who pass. Fewer each season. Some years are better, some are bare, but Marta remains, because the trees still try, and she will not give up before they do. We walk now to the far side of a mountain range, down into a wet hollow where light comes late and leaves early. A bog settlement. The huts here are raised on stilts. The air is always damp, the wood always moldy, the paths narrow and slick. But the people have adapted. Among them is Rurik, a reed worker. He makes baskets, fish traps, crude mats, from the wet plants that grow all around them. His hands are stained green. His eyes always watch the skies. He fears rain. He fears drought more. He lives with his mother, who no longer walks. She speaks only in riddles now, half prayer, half song. They keep geese which honk like ghosts in the night. Their droppings smear the walkways, their feathers line the bedding. There are few visitors here, few reasons to come, but Rurik sends his baskets downriver, with traders who mutter complaints and pay little. Still, he weaves. His fingers remember patterns older than names. He once saw a boat sink in the mist. He remembers the sound. He does not like silence, so he hums, even when no one listens. Let us walk again, slowly, into the edge of winter, to a hunting cabin far in the north, surrounded by pine. A man named Thorleif lives there with his daughter, Inga. They hunt to live, trap what they can, smoke meat when lucky, go hungry when not. They speak rarely, not from coldness, but from custom. Words in the cold waste breath. Thorleif was once a guard, perhaps, or a scout, something that ended in blood. Now, he tracks deer, shoots birds, digs snow pits. Inga is 15, quiet-eyed, strong. She sharpens the blades, sews furs, starts fires in 2 breaths. Their home is small, tight, warm enough, most nights. They don't see people for months, but they don't mind. Inga sometimes draws in the frost on the window. She likes patterns, spirals, stars. Thorleif keeps a bone carving in his coat. From his wife, before. They do not speak her name, but her chair still sits by the fire. The snow deepens, but the fire still burns. And so, they survive. Now, let your thoughts be soft. Let your breath fall gently. All around you, lives have passed, hidden in fog, tucked into mud, whispered across moors, woven into baskets, burned into memory. You carry them now, like coins in a quiet pocket. This story continues. But you may rest now if you haven't already. There is no hurry, only time, only sleep, only the long remembering. We are far from where we began now. Yet the road feels the same, soft underfoot, curving gently forward, lit only by the glow of memory and sleep. Wherever you are, in bed, half dreaming, eyes closed but listening, know that these stories are here to be held, not hurried. You may drift, you may rest. The story will wait for you, and it will go on. Our path leads now toward an island, not far from the coast, but forgotten enough. Tides surround it like arms. Storms come often, and the sea leaves nothing untouched. On its southern edge stands a monastery, not grand, not adorned, weathered wood, stone dark with salt, a bell tower hunched like a bent spine. It was once a place of learning, then of retreat. Then, as wars and taxes came, it became what so many places do, a place of storage, of survival. Brother Owain lives here now, one of 4 who remain. He is old, nearly blind, but his hands still find the vellum, still follow the old ink lines. In the great book he copies by memory. They no longer have candles enough for night work, no parchment for fresh writing. The ink is thinned with wine gone sour. Owen still chants the morning prayers, his voice cracked, tuneless, steady. The others keep the garden, or what's left of it, carrots, beets, sea kale. Sometimes villagers from the mainland bring bread in exchange for blessings. Sometimes they forget. The roof leaks. The cloister is overgrown. The hymnals are too damaged to sing from. Still, Owain stays. He cannot say why, only that this place once held light, and he remembers how it felt. He can feel the ocean wind through the window slats, hear the gulls, hear the hollow echoes of footsteps in the empty refectory. He speaks aloud to no one in particular. To forget is worse than to suffer, he once wrote. No one copied that line but him, but here, we carry it forward. Let us move on, to warmer air, to the high pastures, where shepherds sleep beneath cloaks and skies. It is midsummer now, and the grass is thick, the sheep quiet, and the insects hum lazily under the sun. There sits a boy here, called Jory. Not a child, not a man. He walks the fields alone, watches for foxes, for storms, for wolves. He carries a staff and a pouch with oatcakes and cheese, a slingshot, a small carved saint. At night, he sings to the sheep, old songs, simple ones, not for the animals, for himself, because the hills are large, and the night is long. He dreams of town, of taverns and warm pies and girls who smile, but he does not hate the hills. They have fed him, raised him, taught him. He knows where the herbs grow that soothe coughs, where the spring runs coldest, where the stones speak when the wind is right. Jory has never seen the sea, but he has seen stars so close they seem to whisper. That is enough. For now, we leave him sitting on a stone, back to the wind, watching the horizon for clouds that have not yet formed. Further on, down the mountain road, past the ruins of 2 burned wagons and a collapsed gatehouse, is a border hamlet. Half its homes are empty. The others hold tight to what's left. Wood, warmth, and memory. A girl named Dania lives there with her aunt. They dry herbs and make dye from roots and lichen. They dye cloth for trade caravans that rarely come. Dania doesn't speak often. Her tongue was cut when raiders came years ago. She signs now, with hands, with glances, with small movements. Her aunt understands. So do a few neighbors. They leave scraps for her goats, small kindnesses. She carries a knife, always, tied to her belt with dyed thread. She does not fear much anymore. She sings without words, in a voice that is all breath and rhythm. When the wind carries it down the road, people sometimes stop to listen, though they never say so. She sees everything. Nothing escapes her. She watches the ground for tracks, the sky for omens, the faces of visitors for lies. They call her Silent Dania, but she is the loudest truth that place has ever known. Let us leave her to her dye pots and her quiet humming. We walk now to the marshes again. Deeper this time, past safe trails. There's a hut raised on logs, built by hand, reinforced with mud and willpower. It belongs to a man named Theon, and it is no one's business why. He doesn't welcome visitors. He doesn't need help, or so he says. He lives off frogs, snails, roots, birds, anything that doesn't fight harder than him. The marsh is his armor, his shield, his silence. He keeps a ledger in the rafters. Names, dates, wrongs done. He sharpens blades with care. Keeps old coins in a jar. Some say he was a soldier, a deserter, a prince's bastard, a thief. He doesn't confirm or deny. He lights fires by flint, drinks water boiled with moss, knows which reeds are safe to eat and which ones poison sleep forever. He once helped a traveler carry her cart out of the mud, said nothing, took no coin. There is still a heart under all that bramble. He just guards it carefully. Theon will never return to the world, but he remembers every part of it. We walk on, the marsh fog parting slowly around us. Now we come to an old vineyard, or what used to be one. The vines grow wild now, untended, grapes small, bitter, too few to press. But the land still smells of sweetness, of earth warmed by light. An old woman named Talia lives there, in the crumbling villa that once hosted dozens. Now only the kitchen remains whole, and a single bedroom. She boils wine to make vinegar, crumbles bread into stew, wears layers in summer because the wind through the walls never truly stops. Children from a nearby town visit sometimes, not for sweets. She has none, but for stories. Talia was once the daughter of a merchant, then the wife of a knight, then the mother of a poet. All lost now, but her memory, sharp as glass, remains. She tells tales of ships that flew, of cities that sang, of lovers turned to birds. She tells them as though they were her own. Maybe they were, maybe they still are. When she speaks, even the dust listens. Let your breath fall gently now. You have walked among monks and marsh dwellers, shepherds and dye makers, children who hum to sheep, and old women who speak like books. These lives, small, sharp, quiet, have touched the corners of time without ever marking it, but you have seen them now, heard them, and so they live again. You don't need to hold on tightly. Let sleep take the weight. Let the stories settle like dust in the soft folds of your dreaming, and we will go on together. When the moment is right, the sky above these stories turns slowly. The stars do not rush, and neither do we. You've walked through so many lives now, some in silence, some in wind, some in flame, all of them stitched into the quiet tapestry of forgotten time. We continue now, one thread at a time. We find ourselves in a valley, narrow and long, where the sun rises late and sets early. It's a quiet place, soft with fog in the mornings and fireflies in the evenings. A narrow footpath winds past a grain store, a barn that's lost its roof, and finally, a forge. Not the kind of forge used for armor or weapons. No lords pass through here. This forge is for horseshoes, tools, nails. The blacksmith's name is Emran, broad-shouldered, silent, soot-smudged. He works alone. He learned from his mother, who learned from her brother. The forge has been in the family 3 generations, and each one gave more to it than they took from it. Emran's hands are cracked, always warm. His face is quiet, his eyes kind in the way of people who've seen more loss than gain, but chose to stay kind anyway. The fire never goes out fully. At night, it slumbers beneath ash, waiting. Emran sleeps in the corner of the same building. He wakes when the wind shifts or the horses cry. He knows the sound of a sick foal, the difference in clang between good iron and brittle steel. People pass through now and then. Not many, fewer every year. They bring broken carts, bent blades, rusted chains. He fixes them all. He does not hurry, and they always say thank you. He nods and returns to the fire. We leave him in the glow of coals, sparks drifting into the rafters. Down the road is a field gone to seed. Wheat once grew here, tall and gold. Now it leans brown under the weight of too many seasons and not enough care. Beside it is a cottage, its windows patched with cloth, its door hung slightly askew. Inside lives Leni, a midwife. Her fingers are steady, her voice low, her presence firm. She's brought more than 50 children into the world, and buried just as many. She's not one for soft words unless they matter, but she knows where to press, how to breathe, when to pray. No one pays her in coin. They pay her in chickens, in firewood, in jars of pickled roots. Once, someone brought a ribbon. She wore it for a month. There is no healer in the village. Only Lene. No church doctor, no noble concern. Only the women who come in pain, and the woman who stays until the crying, or silence, is done. Lane does not ask for thanks. She simply asks to be left in peace between births. She talks to her garden, grows mint, garlic, yarrow, burns lavender by the bed. After hard nights, she keeps a ledger in her head. of births, of names, of wrongs, of kindnesses. She forgets nothing. And so we remember her too. The path rises gently into foothills now, to a mining shack built at the edge of a ravine. It's not a formal mine. No taxes are paid. No lords are aware, but the men here dig just the same. Tin, mostly. Sometimes iron. Occasionally something shiny enough to stir hope for a week. One of them is called Mikkel. He's young, too young perhaps to carry the full weight of the pickaxe, but he swings it with rhythm, practice, resignation. His father worked here, his uncle too. Neither came home last winter. Now Mikkel digs. The others let him be. He speaks little, eats fast, sleeps with a blade under his bedroll. The mine is low-ceilinged and wet. The supports groan when it rains. The air grows thin the deeper you go. But Mikkel knows the sound of shifting stone. He knows the smell of fresh air. He knows when to run. He's lost 2 teeth, cracked a rib. But he keeps coming back, because sometimes someone finds something worth selling, and sometimes that someone is him. He steps saving, though he hasn't said for what. Perhaps for boots that fit, or to leave, or to never dig again. We leave him with his lantern flickering, breath visible in the damp. Further on, we come to a riverbend village where the bridge was never rebuilt. They use a ferry now. A raft pulled by rope, guided by poles. It's run by a girl named Freda. 17, quick-footed, quick-tempered. She took over after her brother left, and her father lost his leg to rot. She knows the river better than anyone. She knows its moods, its currents, its secrets. At night, she tells it stories, swears it listens. She ferries people all day. Farmers with carts, merchants with goats, priests with too many words. She says little, smiles even less, but her ferry never tips. She carries the weight of the village, and it shows in her shoulders. But when no one is watching, she sings, loud, wild, with joy that startles the birds from the banks. She dreams of building a better ferry, or a bridge, or a boat, to leave entirely. But for now, she pulls the rope, and the river listens. Let your breath be like that river now. Slow, steady, soft around the edges. We are not done, but we are never in a hurry. The worst places to live held people who lived fully, tiredly, sometimes, quietly, often, but fully. Yous have met them. Yous have walked beside them. Now let them walk beside you, into your dreaming. There is still more to tell. But for now, rest. The world can wait. The world narrows as night deepens, not from closing in, but from softening. The sharpness of waking dulls, the edges blur, and the path through memory continues, step by easy step. We walk now to the southern lowlands, where the soil grows rich, but the wealth does not stay. A row of huts leans together against the wind, held upright more by habit than by structure. Chickens wander freely. A pig lies in the road, not moving, not needing to. In one of the huts lives a woman named Sarah. She's a weaver, though her loom was broken long ago, and the reeds she uses now come from swampy fields. She weaves mats, belts, baskets, anything someone might trade bread for. Her fingers are always busy, even when she's talking, even when she's listening. Sarah lives alone, though there was once a husband and a son, both lost, one to war, the other to water. She wears their names in beads around her wrist, says them sometimes under her breath when the wind picks up. The children of the village visit her, drawn by the sound of her reed bundles clicking together. She never chases them off. She tells them stories, but never the same way twice. Her versions of the saints, often include foxes. Her tales of noblemen usually end in puddles or bee stings. The priest frowns, but the children laugh. Sarah laughs too. And then she weaves again. The patterns change depending on her mood. Angles for anger, loops for peace, spirals when she dreams. We leave her now, seated in the light of her fire, shaping stories into thread, and move north, where the wind grows colder. A stretch of barren heath, too flat for trees, too damp for grain. There's a hut here made of turf and stone. Its chimney little more than a hole in the roof. Inside lives a man called Bram. He is a thatcher by trade. When there's seps work, when there isn't, he traps rabbits, gathers moss, or watches the sky. He walks with a limp from a fall 2 winters ago. The healer said he'd walk straight again, but Bram never did. He whistles when he walks, though the tunes are barely more than breath. He drinks nettle tea, sharp and bitter, sleeps with his back to the door, keeps a piece of antler by his bed, for luck or protection, or both. No one visits often, but when they do, Bram always has something to share. A dried root, a sharp stone, a story told with few words. They say he was once a soldier, or a thief, or a monk. Bram doesn't correct them. He doesn't need to. The heath remembers enough. We move on, through a cluster of woodcutters' homes, pressed into the edge of a forest that seems to grow taller each year. Here the days are measured by light and the sound of axes. A woman named Emina lives in the smallest of the cabins, with her father, who can no longer swing the axe. She does it now. The chopping, the binding, the hauling. She's strong, but not careless. Her pace is even, her hands sure. She talks to the trees before she cuts them. Always the same words, a kind of apology. They provide the family's wood for heating, their trade with the tannery, their pay to the steward, who arrives once a month and counts everything twice. Emina hates the sound of silence. She sings when she works, loudly, off-key, proudly. Sometimes the other woodcutters join in. Sometimes they don't. She doesn't mind. Her father listens from the fire, wrapped in every blanket they own. He nods when she finishes a verse. She keeps cutting, because the winter will come, and wood will be needed. We step carefully away from the trees, and into a quiet grove where stones mark the graves of those too poor for coffins. There is no town nearby, only a lane that travelers sometimes use when the river road floods. At the edge of the grove, there is a candle flickering. A boy kneels beside it, hood drawn low. His name is Tormund. He's 13. He doesn't know how old the grave is. He doesn't know whose it is, but he lights a candle every time he passes, just in case. He travels alone, carrying a pack with bread wrapped in cloth and a piece of broken mirror. He doesn't speak much. When he does, it's in soft questions. Have you seen the sky today? Do the trees sleep? What happens to a name when no one says it? Most don't answer, but Tormund doesn't mind. He believes the wind does. He writes small poems in the dirt with a stick, then erases them, quickly, before anyone else sees. The road takes him where it wants, but the candle at least stays lit for a while. We move now to a lakeside hut, where nets hang drying and the smell of fish never leaves. The water is wide, but not deep, calm, but never still. A man named Idris rows out each morning, comes back each evening, always alone. He was once part of a larger village, but it burned. Now, only the lake knows him. He keeps to himself, smokes the fish on a rack he built, sells them to travelers who sometimes pass. He has no dog, no horse, no neighbor, only the oars, the net, the weight of memory. He speaks to the water, sometimes. Whispers things too low to catch. People say he sets cursed. But he is not angry. He simply prefers the silence of ripples to the noise of questions. We leave him now, silhouetted against the water, moving slowly through morning mist. And at last, we arrive at the edge of the world, or what might have been, for those who lived there. A cliffside village so high the clouds pass through it. Only 5 homes remain, and only 2 are still occupied. In one of them lives an old man named Seth. He's blind in one eye, half deaf, but sharper than most. He can still climb the goat path, still find mushrooms by smell, still tell the weather by the way the stones sweat. Seth has lived here all his life. He says seen others leave, fall, fade, but he stays. He says the wind tells him stories, not all of them kind, but all of them true. He sits by the edge sometimes, feet dangling, humming. When birds come close, he clicks his tongue, they come closer still. He carves wind chimes from bone and hangs them outside his door. They sing when the wind sings and fall silent when it mourns. Let your thoughts be like that wind now, light, moving, softly carrying the lives we've passed, each one resting in the folds of your memory, your stillness. There is more still to tell, but you do not have to hold it all. Sleep will carry what you cannot, and the stories will wait for you to return. There is no rush here. The night moves without effort. The stories follow without urgency. Each life, a small light in the distance. We've walked far, but we haven't arrived. We never really do. That's the beauty of it. Tonight, we travel into the marshlands again, but deeper, beyond the places with paths. Here, the ground sucks at boots. Trees lean with long, slow patience, and smoke rises from chimneys that aren't visible until you're nearly upon them. In one such place, a family lives on a houseboat moored into the peat. The father, Carell, repairs fishing lines and nets. The mother, Lisbeth, gathers reeds to weave mats and sandals. The children, 2 boys, run barefoot on the wet planks, their laughter carried by the fog. Their lives are damp, always damp. Clothes hung constantly near the fire, potatoes boiled in the same pot every night. The boat creaks in its ropes when the wind rises. Sometimes, it groans as if remembering the river it once sailed. They go into town twice a year, once in spring to trade for salt, once in autumn to buy wool. The rest of the time, they float, tied to the shore, tied to each other. Carell once carved a heron from driftwood. It sits on the prow, watching the mist. The boys think it's lucky. Maybe it is. They've never capsized, never gone hungry, never had to leave. Sometimes survival is its own kind of fortune. We drift past them, the water closing quietly behind us. Beyond the wetlands, the hills lift slowly, damp green turning to stone and heather. There is a watch post here, long abandoned, a wall crumbling into itself, and beside it, a tent of thick hide and canvas. Inside, a woman sharpens arrows. Her name is Cora. She has no surname, no village, no banner. She was once part of a garrison, or a hunting party, or a rebellion. No one knows. She doesn't say. Her fire is small, her sword kept dry with oiled cloth. She hunts deer, mostly, or whatever passes through. Sometimes she trades with travelers. Smoked meat, antler combs. Advice: most keep walking. Cora stays. She says the wind here is clearer, says it cuts through lies. She sleeps light, never more than 4 hours. But when she does, she dreams of fields where nothing had to be fought for. She hasn't found them yet. Still, she waits. We descend now toward a village built in a bowl of land, sunless in winter, sweltering in summer. It was once larger, a weaving town, where flax was grown and processed. Now, only a few houses remain, their roofs sag, their windows rattle. A man named Donald sits by the well. He's missing 3 fingers, lost to the loon, he says. His wife, Brana, died last year, the fever, or something like it. Now he watches the road, every day. No one's sure what he waits for. Maybe a letter, maybe a memory. He sells thread spun by an old wheel he's patched with copper and string. It hums when it spins. Low and slow, sometimes children stop to listen. Donald hums with it, his voice cracked like the well stones. He doesn't expect anything anymore, but he still waits, and so we remember him for that. Let us walk now through a shadowed orchard, barely alive, where apple trees cling to cracked soil and thorny vines climb their trunks. A girl named Elta tends the orchard. She's not the owner. There is no owner now, but she tends it all the same. She sleeps in the old mill nearby, its wheel broken, its gears rusted shut. Each morning, she walks the rows, waters what can be watered, grafts branches from the strongest trees to the weakest. She says never been taught, but she listens. She says the trees speak if used her quiet enough. She doesn't mean it as a riddle. She means the creak of branches, the crackle of bark, the sigh of leaves. They tell her what to do. She hasn't harvested fruit in 2 years, but she still tries, because something is always growing, even if you can't see it yet. And she wants to be there when the green returns. She believes it will, and so we move on, through fog again, through chill, to the edge of a cliffside trail where pilgrims once walked. No longer. The shrine is ruined. The path worn dangerous, but someone still comes. Each month, without fail, candles appear, flowers, sometimes, small offerings, left by a boy called Emmerich. He doesn't live nearby, but he walks the trail from his village, 2 valleys over, with steady feet and a lantern tied to his belt. He doesn't say who the offerings are for. He lights the candles carefully, shielding the flame from the wind. Then he sits, sometimes for minutes, sometimes until stars appear. Then he leaves. No one follows. He returns again the next moon. A cycle of grief only he understands. We let him keep his silence. Now, the land flattens once more, becomes dry, dust-covered, and here we find an old shepherd's cottage, roofless but still inhabited. A man named Ethan sleeps beneath the stars now, a blanket of wool and skin pulled over him like sky. He keeps goats, though not many. He keeps bees, though only 2 hives survive the dry winds. He says little, talks more to the goats than to people. He once read Latin, still does, though he owns no books, only fragments memorized and repeated beneath his breath. He feeds the bees sugar water in winter, sings to them when the wind turns cold. He believes in luck, in the way smoke moves, in the shape of dew on stones. He believes everything speaks. If you listen, even silence, especially silence. Now, let the quiet settle. You've walked so far through fog, through wind, through silence and song. You've seen places not on any map. You've heard voices most never will, and in doing so, you have honored them. These worst places to live were not without meaning. They were full of it, dense with it, and you were here. You've seen the ash-black hands of the charcoal burner, the broken loom of the weaver, the candle in the dirt, the whisper of goats at dawn. You have walked softly through their lives. Now let them walk softly through your dreams. You may sleep. The story continues, always. The wind is softer now, like breath through leaves, like cloth being folded. You may feel it, even now, moving through you as if it's passing between the lives we've left behind and the ones we're about to meet. You do not need to hold on. Just listen. We come now to a village that leans against a hillside, not nestled, not protected, just there. The homes are low and narrow. Their walls are laced with ivy. Their chimneys cracked. It rains often here, and when it doesn't, the earth is still wet. At the top of the hill, in a cottage built too hastily on ground too soft, lives a man named Talon. He makes ink, not books, not scrolls, just the ink, from bark, ash, soot, and old roots. He boils it in a copper pot and stores it in wax-sealed jars. No one in the village writes. But once a month, someone from the priory comes down the path and trades silver for what Talon has made. He doesn't speak during the trade. He just nods, then turns and disappears behind the door. Inside, he keeps a ledger, not for business, for memory. He writes the date, the color, the thickness, the weather, the birds seen, the dreams dreamt. He never shows it to anyone. But the pages grow heavier, stained in dark shades of blue and black and purple. Talon doesn't speak often, but he sees, and the ink remembers what the people forget. We step down the hill to the lower homes, where the walls have bowed and the windows whistle when the wind comes down. A woman named Santa lives in one of them. She keeps bees. Her husband left long ago, gone to find land that didn't flood. She stayed, for the hives, for the quiet. She doesn't wear gloves, says the bees know her, and they do. She hums when she tends them, and they rise like sparks and settle again. Her home smells of honey, wax, and herbs hung to dry from the ceiling. Children come by for sweetbread, travelers for salve. She gives it freely, most days. In return, she asks only that people be kind to each other, or at least less cruel. Sometimes they remember. In the evenings, she sits by the bees and talks to them, not about anything in particular, just enough to remind herself she sits not alone. We walk now toward a village long abandoned, not by disaster, just time. Only one house still stands, with a roof patched by bark and cloth. Inside lives a man named Rude. He doesn't claim to own the house. He says he's just borrowing it from memory. He eats roots, wears clothes sewn from scraps, writes messages on stones and leaves them at the door for no one. He believes the world ended once already, quietly, without anyone noticing. Now he waits to see what grows in its place. Birds land on his shoulders. Foxes nap near his garden wall. He doesn't feed them. They just stay. He built a sundial once, then took it apart, stone by stone. He says time isn't set needed anymore, only attention. We leave Rude by his window, staring into nothing and everything. Farther still, the land opens up into fields of chalk and flint, and there, a camp of tents set in a ring, with fires burning low and steady. Travelers. They're not welcome in most towns. They know it, but they keep moving. Among them is a girl named Fenna. She dances. She's 12, quick, small, with feet that barely touch the ground when the firelight catches her. She doesn't speak much outside the circle, but when the drums begin, small ones, played with fingers, Fenna moves like the wind answering its own song. The elders watch. They say nothing, but they smile, because in her dancing, they see every road they've ever walked, every camp they Sev left behind, every name they were once called. They teach her things, quietly, by example. No lectures, no scolding, just stories, gestures, patience. Fenna listens, and then she dances again. We pass them slowly with reverence. the fire burning behind us as we go, toward the coast now, to cliffs so steep that birds nest in the sheer sides, calling out into the wind that never quite stops. At the edge, a stone house clings to the land. Inside is a boy named Alice. His father is a lighthouse keeper, his mother, gone. The tower hasn't worked in 2 years. The lens cracked, the firewood spoiled, but they still light it when they can. Alice climbs the stairs each night, counting the steps, 63, sometimes 64 if the wind has shifted the floorboards. He lights the small fire in the basin, just enough to glow. No ships pass here anymore. The port is dead, but he lights it anyway. He says the sea deserves to be seen, even if it no longer brings anything back. We descend the cliff path slowly, carefully, to a cave not marked on any map. Inside, someone paints. They don't leave a name, only colors. Reds from berries, blacks from soot, yellows from clay. The images are small. Birds, fish, leaves, stars, symbols no one else remembers. The walls are thick with layers. A child's handprint, then another, older, with more detail. Some of the paint has faded. Some still glows when the torchlight flickers. We do not know who painted them, only that they did, and that someone returned. Because the painting continues, the wall is not a message, not a warning, only proof. Someone was here, and they left beauty. And now, perhaps, your breathing has slowed. Maybe you are already drifting, or maybe you are just resting. Eyes open, thoughts soft. That sep's all right. The path continues, whether you walk it or dream it. Each of these lives, fleeting, quiet, overlooked, has left something behind. A song hummed to bees, a flame lit for no one, a dance performed for stars. You carry them now, and they carry you. Sleep, if you haven't already. The worst places to live were never empty, only full in ways we forget to see. We see them now, and they are not alone. There's something gentle in continuing, even when it's hard, even when nothing changes. Just to go on softly is its own kind of grace. That's what the people in these stories understood. We walk now to a region where hills roll low, and the soil is tired, not ruined, just worn, like a blanket too often mended. The village here is long and thin, stretched beside a road that leads nowhere fast. Houses lean toward the wind, chickens scatter through the mud. In one of the homes lives a woman called Bren. Her back is bent from work. She laughs with her whole chest. No one remembers her age, not even her. She gathers herbs, not because she's a healer, but because she always has. Her mother taught her, and her mother before that. They used to pass knowledge down with rituals. Now it's just her. She crushes leaves into salves, fills cloth sachets with calming powders, wraps aches in warmth and wisdom. People call her the root witch, but kindly, not fearfully. Children bring her broken things, buttons, feathers, words they've heard and don't understand. She fixes what she can. The rest, she blesses. She lives alone but is never lonely. Her fire is always lit. We leave her stirring something fragrant and strange, humming softly to a song no one else knows. Farther on, we cross a moor where fog lays flat across the earth like sleep itself. There steps a stone shelter, sunken on one side. A man named Ralph keeps sheep here. Only a few, enough to need tending, not enough to be noticed. He marks the days with stones in a bowl, smooth ones for fair weather, sharp ones for storms. He eats oatcake and dried apple, drinks from the same stream as his animals. He whistles to them, not to call them, just so they know he's there. Ralph doesn't speak much. But he sings to the stars on clear nights. The sheep stay quiet when he does. Sometimes he counts them out loud, not to keep track, but for rhythm. Counting makes him feel steady, safe. The moor doesn't ask questions, so he gives it his trust. We step across the wet ground and follow a stream that widens into a marshy lake. There, tucked beside a ruined mill, is a wooden shelter. 2 sisters live here, Tila and Mir. They mend clothes, for trade, for barter, for the slow rhythm of stitching. Their hands are quick, their voices low. They finish each other's thoughts with nods and glances. The older, Tila, lost an eye years ago. The younger, Mir, lost the use of her left arm in a fall. Together, they are more whole than many. They boil dye from bark and berries, stitch charm patterns into the linings, for luck, for health, for sleep. Sometimes they stitch for themselves, shapes that mean nothing to others, but keep dreams away that shouldn't return. They do not leave often, but they watch the road, and sometimes they wave. We leave them with their needles, their silent language, their songs sung through thread. Next, a bend in the river. The water turns wide and slow. There's a ferry here, made of wood, tied with rope that frays no matter how many times it's repaired. A man called Juna operates it, barefoot, sun-browned, always chewing something, mint, perhaps. He takes people across whether they can pay or not, says the river doesn't care about coins. So why should he? His boat creaks and groans, but never sinks. He talks to the birds, names them, recites poems he half remembers from a time he never talks about. Sometimes in the evenings, he plays a flute made from bone. He doesn't call it music. He says it's just breath through memory. He never asks where travelers are going. He just ferries them forward. We drift onward with him, gently, to a town built from stone blackened by smoke. It was once a mining hub. Now it barely stands. Dust clings to the rooftops like memory that won't wash off. In a corner house, a woman named Lyde bakes. She doesn't own a shop, just an oven built into a wall. It's stones older than the town itself. She makes bread with barley, with rye, with whatever someone can bring her. She doesn't sell it. She trades. A loaf for a spool of thread, a heel for mending a boot, a crust for sweeping her doorstep. Her loaves are heavy, dense, crusted with ash, but always warm. She gives extra to children, and to old men who pretend not to need it. She used to be a midwife. Her hands remember pressure, breath, timing. Now they knead dough with the same care. At night, she sits with her feet by the coals, reading scraps of letters people bring her, messages they can't read themselves. She never tells them everything the letter says, only what matters. Let us walk from warmth into wind again. The coast reappears. This time, a rocky bay where ships do not dock, and waves do not calm. A hermit lives here. His name is Soul. No one knows what he left behind. He writes messages into sand and watches them vanish. He eats kelp and crab, keeps a fire behind a wall of driftwood, sleeps with a stone under his pillow to remind him the earth is still there. Soul speaks only to the wind, but he smiles when the gulls land nearby. He once built a tower of stones, taller than a man. It fell in a storm. He did not rebuild it. Instead, he drew it on the wall of his cave and left it at that. He is not hiding. He is simply done with noise. And now, we walk again, through fog, through field, through a world that slows for us, step by patient step. You may feel your own breath settle. Feel the weight of time held lightly. These people, bakers, ferrymen, Sisters with needles, boys with candles have walked with you, and now they rest, and so may you. Because here, nothing asks you to remember, only to feel, to drift, to soften, to sleep. The story goes on, but it waits. You are safe here. There's no hurry, no need to keep anything in your hands. The story carries itself, like a river carries the stars, reflected, never rushed. We walk now into an inland village, one that seems to forget itself a little more each year. The walls of its homes are made of woven wattle and dried mud, flaking in the wind. The roofs dip in the middle. The paths turn to puddles after the lightest rain. In one of the crooked homes, a man named Halen makes candles. Tallow, mostly. Sometimes beeswax. When the priest sends for something finer, he renders the fat in an iron pot outside his door. The smell is heavy. Neighbors wrinkle their noses, but no one complains. Not anymore. Halen lives alone. He keeps the candles in rows, sorted by burn time, by color, by silence. He says some candles burn louder than others. He's not wrong. Each flame seems to speak, in its own way. He never writes anything down, but he remembers every order, every wick. He makes special ones sometimes, short and quick for prayers, tall and even for vigils, low and soft for graves. He never asks what they set her for. He just hands them over and nods, and then, quietly, he returns to his wax. The light in his home never goes out. We step from the candlemaker's lane toward the churchyard. It leans, slightly. The bell tower tilts. The stained glass long ago gave way to shuttered wood. But the graveyard remains, and among the tilted stones, a woman named Nima tends the earth. She is not the sexton. She has no title. But each morning, she gathers a bundle of herbs and walks among the graves. She presses rosemary into the soil, lavender, when she can find it. She clears moss from names, pats loose dirt around the edges. The priest once told her to stop, but he no longer says anything. She hums as she works, a tune with no clear beginning or end. Children sometimes help her, pulling weeds, laying stones upright. She never tells them whose grave is whose. She simply says, they mattered, and that sip's enough. We walk away softly. Beyond the churchyard lies the common field. No fences, no markers, only worn paths and stunted crops. And here, crouched beside a row of wilted cabbages, is a boy named Ned. He seps, maybe 8, maybe 10. No one seps sure. He digs with a stick, looking for worms, for roots, for anything useful. He wears 3 shirts, all of them too big. His shoes are twine and leather, tied into shape. He lives with an old man, possibly his grandfather, possibly not. The man speaks to the fire and answers to no name. Ned speaks little, but he watches everything. He counts crows. He measures shadows. He keeps a smooth rock in his pocket for luck. He once followed a fox for half a day, just to see where it would go. It led him back home. He tells no one about that. He keeps things quiet, safe, tucked inside. Sometimes he draws faces in the dirt, always smiling, then erases them before the wind can. We leave him there, crouched low, the sun breaking weakly through the mist above. Farther on, we pass a tannery, empty now. The smell still lingers, thick, bitter, stubborn. A young woman named Mela lives nearby. She once worked there, now she doesn't. Now she makes shoes, scraps of leather turned into boots, sandals, clogs. She works with quiet speed, her fingers scarred, her eyes sharp. She used to sing while she stitched. Now she listens instead. She says the leather speaks if you let it, tells her what shape it wants, what weight, what silence. The villagers bring her their old souls, their split seams, their cracked laces. She fixes what she can, sends the rest back with a handful of dried thyme. For the smell, she says, but it sets more than that. It sits her signature, her goodbye, her gift. And so we move on, through narrow alleyways and fields that will never quite yield enough, toward a hut made of driftwood and sun-bleached bone. It stands near the river mouth, where the tide turns twice a day and the gulls scream like ghosts. Inside lives an old man named Tor. He makes instruments, flutes from hollow reed, drums from skins stretched tight, strings from gut, tuned by ear. He plays for no one, only the tide. His songs are strange, not tuneless, but not quite songs either. More like memory being unspooled. No one asks for his music, but everyone hears it. It drifts up the river with the morning mist, down again with the night. Children hum his notes in their sleep. They never know why. Tor once played for kings, some say. Now he plays for waves. He does not mourn the difference. We linger as long as the sound lasts, and then move on to a house built halfway into the hill, warm in winter, damp in spring, invisible from the road. A woman lives there named Elaine. She keeps mushrooms, not a farm. Exactly, just shadowed shelves where spores thrive. She speaks to them, names them, laughs when they grow sideways. She harvests what epst safe, avoids what is instet. Villagers come to her for remedies, for tea, for dreams. She gives them what they need, not always what they want. She once brewed something that made a man sing for 6 days. He hasn't sung since. She smiles when asked about it, says, he needed it then. Eileen reads bones too, small ones, tells futures that don't always come true, but always make people think. She is strange, but not feared, just respected, like the dark before dawn. Let your thoughts be like that dark now, still, deep, kind. You've wandered far, through fog and soil, through stitched souls and salted winds, and here you are, not lost, just resting. Each step has brought you closer to quiet. Each voice has left you more gently held. You do not need to carry the names, only the feeling, only the hush, only the truth that even the worst places held people who mattered, people who endured, and sleep, like memory, holds them all. Let it hold you now, until you're ready to walk again. By now, the road has become something more than a road. It's a rhythm, a breathing thing, a path that winds through not just space, but through memory, through the parts of time that didn't make it into the songs or scrolls. But they lived, they mattered, and you are here to remember. We come now to a salt plain, cracked white earth beneath gray sky. The wind here is sharp and constant, scraping across the land like it's looking for something it lost. No trees, no shade, only the crunch of salt beneath tired feet. At its edge, a small structure made from stone blocks and driftwood. A man named Jorn lives here. He gathers salt, not the kind sold in markets, not fine or pure, but coarse, bitter, crusted from ponds that dry under the sun and fill again when the tide returns. He works slowly, barefoot, shoulders burnt from years of sun and wind. His fingers are white from the salt, his lips dry, but his eyes are clear. He keeps a bowl of water by the door for birds that forget how far they've flown. He speaks little, but when he does, it's to ask questions you're not sure how to answer. What do you think the sea dreams about? Does the wind carry stories, or only warnings? His laughter is rare, but when it comes, it sounds like rain on metal. He writes nothing down, but he marks his days by the shape of the clouds and the salt. always the salt. We walk on. The plain fades. The ground softens, becomes meadow, becomes green again. Here, we find a crumbling stone tower, half swallowed by ivy, surrounded by a low fence woven from old branches. A woman named Rika lives there. She sits not a noble, not anymore. Maybe never was. But she wears a cloak made from dozens of different fabrics. Blue velvet, linen, felted wool, bits of embroidery from times long past. She calls herself a keeper. Of what? No one sits certain. But inside the tower, the walls are covered in maps, none of them accurate. Rivers where there are none. Cities drawn too large. Forests where only marsh grows now. But she updates them each season, meticulously, with ink made from berries, with notes in the margins. Heard thunder, no rain. Found feather shaped like a tear. Dog followed me, left at the gate. Children say she sits mad. But when storms come, people check her maps, and they find shelter where she marked it, and they don't ask questions. They just say, thanks, and move on. Rika watches them go, then returns to her ink, because the map is never finished. We pass the tower quietly. Next, a row of caves cut into red stone, too shallow for real shelter, too deep to ignore. A man lives in the last one. Tall, bearded, gentle eyes. His name is Anar. He keeps birds, not caged, not trained. They come to him. He feeds them grain, talks to them like old friends. They sit on his shoulders, in his beard, on the stones beside him. He says they remember more than people do. He says they never lie. Inar used to be a traveler. He's been to cities no longer on maps, rivers that dried before kings were crowned. But now, he stays here, with the birds, with the silence that only the wind and feathers interrupt. He gives feathers to children, one per visitor, says they carry dreams safely. We leave him smiling, as a dove settles beside his hand. And now, we climb, slowly, to a high plateau where the grass grows short and the sky feels near. A herd of sheep grazes near a circle of stones. At the center, a boy plays a pipe. He sets called Willen. He's been up here for 2 summers now, watching the sheep that belong to someone else. His cloak is patched. His boots are mismatched, but his music is sweet. Not skilled, not polished, but sweet. He doesn't speak unless spoken to, but he watches everything. Each cloud, each hoofprint, each change in the wind. He sleeps beside a fire built with care. Stones placed just so, a kettle black with age. When it rains, he hums. When it sets dry, he sings softly. When wolves come near, he whistles in a way that makes them pause and then turn back. He says very little, but the sheep trust him, and the stones do too. Now we come to a place that isn't on any map, not because it was forgotten, but because no one wanted to remember it. An old quarry, the earth torn open, layers of time exposed in rough walls and jagged edges, and yet someone lives here, a girl named Ada. She builds shapes from stone, spirals, circles, towers with no purpose but balance. She doesn't speak at all, but her hands are always moving. She lines the quarry edge with rows of stones painted white with crushed shell. Some say she lost her voice in a landslide. Some say she gave it up. But whatever the truth, she speaks through structure. And when you see what she's made, how it stands in the stillness, you understand more than words could offer. She sits not trying to be seen, but you see her anyway, and we walk on. Let your breath be quiet now. Let your thoughts settle like dust across a still morning. These lives, on plains and cliffs, among feathers and maps, with salt and stone and silence, they remain. And in remembering them, so do we. You don't need to hold them tightly. They are not heavy. They are not asking for anything, only to be known. Just once, and now you do. The story continues, but the world has grown very still. It steps okay to sleep now, to drift, to rest. There is no end, only the next gentle step. By now, the road has become something more than a road. It's a rhythm, a breathing thing, a path that winds through not just space, but through memory, through the parts of time that didn't make it into the songs or scrolls. But they lived, they mattered, and you are here to remember. We come now to a salt plain. Cracked white earth beneath gray sky. The wind here is sharp and constant, scraping across the land like it's looking for something it lost. No trees, no shade, only the crunch of salt beneath tired feet. At its edge, a small structure made from stone blocks and driftwood. A man named Jorn lives here. He gathers salt, not the kind sold in markets, not fine or pure, but coarse, bitter, crusted from ponds that dry under the sun and fill again when the tide returns. He works slowly, barefoot, shoulders burnt from years of sun and wind. His fingers are white from the salt, his lips dry, but his eyes are clear. He keeps a bowl of water by the door for birds that forget how far they've flown. He speaks little, but when he does, it's to ask questions you're not sure how to answer. What do you think the sea dreams about? Does the wind carry stories or only warnings? His laughter is rare, but when it comes, it sounds like rain on metal. He writes nothing down, but he marks his days by the shape of the clouds and the salt. Always the salt. We walk on. The plain fades. The ground softens, becomes meadow, becomes green again. Here we find a crumbling stone tower, half swallowed by ivy, surrounded by a low fence woven from old branches. A woman named Rika lives there. She sits not a noble, not anymore. Maybe never was. But she wears a cloak made from dozens of different fabrics. Blue velvet, linen, felted wool, bits of embroidery from times long past. She calls herself a keeper. Of what? No one sips certain. But inside the tower, the walls are covered in maps, none of them accurate. Rivers where there are none. Cities drawn too large. Forests where only marsh grows now. But she updates them each season, meticulously, with ink made from berries, with notes in the margins. Heard thunder, no rain. Found feather shaped like a tear. Dog followed me, left at the gate. Children say she sets mad, but when storms come, people check her maps, and they find shelter where she marked it. And they don't ask questions. They just say, thanks, and move on. Rika watches them go, then returns to her ink. Because the map is never finished, we pass the tower quietly. Next, a row of caves cut into red stone, too shallow for real shelter, too deep to ignore. A man lives in the last one. Tall, bearded, gentle eyes. His name is Inar. He keeps birds, not caged, not trained. They come to him. He feeds them grain, talks to them like old friends. They sit on his shoulders, in his beard, on the stones beside him. He says they remember more than people do. He says they never lie. Inar used to be a traveler. He's been to cities no longer on maps, rivers that dried before kings were crowned. But now he stays here, with the birds, with the silence that only the wind and feathers interrupt. He gives feathers to children, one per visitor, says they carry dreams safely. We leave him smiling as a dove settles beside his hand, and now we climb, slowly, to a high plateau where the grass grows short and the sky feels near. A herd of sheep grazes near a circle of stones. At the center, a boy plays a pipe. He sits called Willen. He's been up here for 2 summers now, watching the sheep that belong to someone else. His cloak is patched. His boots are mismatched. But his music is sweet, not skilled, not polished, but sweet. He doesn't speak unless spoken to, but he watches everything. Each cloud, each hoof print, each change in the wind. He sleeps beside a fire built with care. Stones placed just so, a kettle black with age. When it rains, he hums. When it sets dry, he sings softly. When wolves come near, he whistles in a way that makes them pause and then turn back. He says very little, but the sheep trust him, and the stones do too. Now, we come to a place that isn't on any map, not because it was forgotten, but because no one wanted to remember it. An old quarry, the earth torn open, layers of time exposed in rough walls and jagged edges. And yet, someone lives here, a girl named Etta. She builds shapes from stone, spirals, circles, towers with no purpose but balance. She doesn't speak at all, but her hands are always moving. She lines the quarry edge with rows of stones painted white with crushed shell. Some say she lost her voice in a landslide. Some say she gave it up. But whatever the truth, she speaks through structure. And when you see what she's made, how it stands in the stillness, you understand more than words could offer. She sits not trying to be seen, but you see her anyway. And we walk on. Let your breath be quiet now. Let your thoughts settle like dust across a still morning. These lives, on plains and cliffs, among feathers and maps, with salt and stone and silence, they remain, and in remembering them, so do we. You don't need to hold them tightly. They are not heavy. They are not asking for anything, only to be known, just once, and now you do. The story continues, but the world has grown very still. It's okay to sleep now, to drift, to rest. There is no end, only the next gentle step.